Data Week and Hackathon. Yes, I know we could have come up with a shorter title, but we wanted to make it very self-explanatory. On this Saturday, it's already the 6th day of the week, so it's almost coming to an end, as a week has 7 days. Tomorrow we will be having the presentations of the projects and, of course, a very interesting jury who will judge on the projects. Those will be presented tomorrow, I think, around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, that's Central European time. For today, we have quite a full program, which is surprising because this is called Open Day, and we interpreted this, the organization, as a day off, and suddenly in the last couple of days, so many projects came forward and said like, yes, but we want to present our projects. We want to talk about stuff. And so this Open Day has become a quite full program, maybe even the fullest program of the entire week. So to start with, we're going to have a panel. If this would be a real life event, we would be on stage sitting in very comfortable chairs and talking about very interesting topics. This panel will be Constanza and Maria with Golem. Kiki should be here anytime soon for Storm City. Grace Torellas is here. She does blockchain for good and many other things. We'll talk about that. And the conversation topic we will be having is about the cultural shifts in society, meaning that we feel decentralization popping up everywhere and what this means. The fun thing is, I think this is an all-women panel, so I'm looking very forward to that, of course. After that, we have a demo by Dimitri about dApps. Then we'll hear from Vision, one of our, I think one of our favorite projects partners. Nicolas will present this. Then we will have Rogelio talk about IPLD document signing with Binance Smart Chain CID. I don't know what it is, but we're going to learn all about that. Then Will and Lewis with Grassroots Economics are going to present their basic income, community currency, and decentralized exchange. Then the future of online gaming. This is going to be a fun one by Petra from Atelier Ludensis. I think I'm pronouncing this correctly. It sounds French. And then Eterna. My Inside Vision, Eterna Mirko is going to be talking about that. It's very interesting as well. Opala, the price of forgery and digital identity. Then we will be listening to a pre-recorded presentation, decentralized storage integration. And to end it all today, the Minerva wallet, using Swarm for backup in a mobile identity and crypto wallet by Thomas. All these projects that I've been mentioning, like for the last minute, I guess, are grants recipients. So this means they are getting a grant from the Swarm Association or Foundation to develop these wonderful things. I think, yeah, we'll see afterwards if you can still apply. I'm not quite sure, but this is like the first, the second, and the third wave of grants we did. And these are like selected projects that we will give the stage to. So I would like to start now with our panel, which I will be sort of moderating, but I will also be like a participant, so I don't know how to do that exactly. But can I please ask our panel to unmute and show yourself on the video cameras? So Maria and Grace and Constanza and oh God, who else do we all have here? Like so many people. Just show yourself. And you can also just unmute. I mean, we're not the kind of people that are going to talk over each other, right? That was really cool, Grace, by the way. What did you just do? I mean, with your video.
What did I do?
What did I do?
Yeah, so first your video was like blurred. Oh, you just cleaned it. I thought you had like a spyware or like, you know, a spyware protection thing on your webcam or something like that. Maria, so Gasper, can you unlock Maria's camera or video, please? So while we are all getting, there you are, Maria. So while we are all excuse me. Yes, it might be. I know it's a little bit chaotic, but it's an open day, so anything goes basically. And so people might join us. I can hear Kiki walking into the apartment, so she will be joining us in a couple of minutes. Can I call you Maria? How should I address you? MP, Maria Paula?
MP is fine.
MP. Okay, I'm just gonna say MP then. Constanza, are you? I can just say Constanza.
Whatever you want.
Well, okay, but don't let me get creative. I mean, I'll just say Constanza, and then Grace, of course. Grace, let's start with you. Can you please, in like a minute maybe, just present yourself and tell us who you are and what you do and why I think you're amazing. Grace, please go ahead.
Well, that's a tough one, but yeah, can you hear me? Is it okay?
Yes.
Can you hear me okay?
The connection is a little bit like unstable, I think.
Can you hear me?
Okay, fine. Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I'm Grace Torres. I think so, yes, and I think I have a little bit of a delay as well. So happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I love to be in this panel. I'm Grace. Humanity. I'm a co-founder there. Blockchain for Humanity is a foundation whose mission is really to see how we use this technology, this amazing technology that surrounds us, blockchain and crypto and everything that we actually are passionate about, but for the use of social impact. So making sure that we use it in a way that actually elevates humanity, in a way that this technology should be sort of heading towards, and it's actually to make our lives better, right? And it should be the way that we normally would want to implement this. So we go after particular use cases that have proven to have that such impact as I mentioned. And as a foundation, what we do is we support them. So we identify, we reward them, we give them an award, and then we work with these projects very closely throughout the year. And that's Grace, me. And I think that's why you think I'm so great.
Not only that, I only think you're great because you have been giving a tremendous contribution, not only to Swarm and the presentations, but also to the blockchain space in general. I mean, in the past, when we could still travel and be together, I've seen you interact and engage with a lot of the people I look up to very much, like my personal heroes. And I know you help them also in communicating and translating their brilliant ideas to something people like us can understand. And so that's the reason why I think you're truly amazing in this, because you have the ability to translate very technical things to human understanding. So MP. I think it's a bit weird for me to say MP, but I'm getting used to it. So it sounds really cool. MP, can you maybe do the same? Just like introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, sure. So I'm MP, actually Maria Paula, but it's too long. I am Argentinian and I work at Golem. Right now I'm one of the advisors to the board. And I also have ETH Berlin, which is a nonprofit from where we run Ethereum testnet, we do hackathons and a bunch of things more.
Yes, are you often in Berlin?
I live here.
Oh, you live in Berlin? Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, awesome. I live here.
That's closer than I expected. That's right. Yeah. We should definitely meet up. Okay, Constanza, can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Costanza. I'm Italian. I'm based in Rome, actually, and I work with MP as a community manager for Golem as well.
Awesome, thank you so much. Yeah, MP, maybe quickly remind people what Golem exactly is, because sometimes this is like in a faraway memory.
Yeah, for sure. So Golem is, first of all, it's an old Ethereum project. We actually
you call this. Sorry, I have to interrupt immediately. You call it old?
It's from 2014. So
oh, yes, okay.
we were born almost at the same time as Ethereum, and actually presented on DevCon 0. So yeah, it's old. It's old but good. And what we do is basically we provide a protocol for the exchange of digital resources, and one of them can be idle computing power.
Yes, I always love to go right from the start. So we are sort of awaiting Kiki, but she might join any moment, and then we'll just do this for her all over again. So let's dive into the conversation. Like we sort of try to come up with like a topic, or like how you say it's like a hanger, where we could say like, okay, this is a topic, and we can these are like things we can talk about. I think the main thing we all kind of feel is that it's like you said, MP, like even from like 2014, 2015, even if you don't look at the blockchain space and the decentralized space, in society, a lot of things started to change. I would argue that people now more than ever have their own beliefs, are in their own bubbles, not corona bubbles, but I mean like intellectual, cultural bubbles, where they actually believe stuff that might not even be true or might be true. Kiki is joining us. And so, it would be interesting for us to just, quickly have everyone's thoughts on how this is actually impacting society and the way we live together and work together and communicate together. So, but before we do, if that's okay, please hold this thought. Kiki, are you there? You're muted.
Hello.
Hello, welcome. So this is Kiki. Kiki, can you please, like, for 60 seconds, introduce yourself?
Yes, hello, I'm Kiki. I've been in the whole blockchain space since I think 2017 something-ish. And I've been working with Swarm City in the beginning for a few years, and like mostly on the organizational level. So I've been working with a lot of developers and other people, and mostly it were men. So it's always fun to see other women. And Michelle asked me to like just join you guys, and I don't know if I can contribute on any thought or whatever. So that's why I'm here.
So yes, so the main topic, as we just discussed, is the decentralization and what it means, for the entire society, not only for our space. So Grace, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I really like the sub ecosystem from the beginning, right? And this is where we actually understood what decentralization meant. About it before this time, but it wasn't until we were part of this ecosystem to really understand how autonomous and how powerful people can be at the end, right? That there doesn't have to be a centralization per se in order to make things work. And what it's giving me, at least the last 6 years that I've been doing work in this particular space, is that it really just makes you very autonomous, empowers you to make decisions, but it has been a kind of a bubble, because we do understand decentralization in our environment much different than the people outside understand decentralization. And one thing that occurred to me when I was thinking about the topic itself, the whole coronavirus has given us a view, beyond this ecosystem, beyond our own world, is the world, a different view of what decentralization is and the power that it actually carries, right? Because I was just part of a project not too long ago that in a complete way. We have never met, and there's a product coming out, and we have never seen each other personally. And I think that's amazing, and actually have this sort of mode of collaboration, this mode of making decisions and communicating, but also producing something and important. And it doesn't have to bring anyone into an office or into a centralized environment to be able to make the great decisions and to move forward. So it had me very, I will say, inspiration to keep going this and keep for decentralization. Because for me, generally, it's the way that I would go in any type of environment work.
Okay, Grace, I'll interrupt here a little bit because your connection, sometimes you're dropping out, which is a shame because it's really interesting always to hear you talk. But maybe, this will go, but this will be fixed automatically, I guess. MP, if you can ask you like, how do you think about, do you think like, and not that I want to be negative in any way, but we always tend to talk about like the positive effects of decentralization, and it's of course because we all gained a lot of value, and I don't mean even monetary value, but like value in collaboration and being able, like Grace said, to work with anyone in the entire world to come up with things. But what do you see, MP, as the the negative effects of decentralization, and then especially about like belief systems and ideas? Yeah.
So with regards to belief system, I don't think there's nothing wrong with decentralization. I think that a multi-set of thoughts and opinions is actually good. And but I do believe that there is a fundamental problem to any decentralized big infrastructure or societies, and is the coordination problem. When there is no central leader, there are different cells of leaders or different cells of nodes or whatever you want to call it. And then it takes a lot of effort to coordinate and to make sure, of course, there's no bad actors. Of course, there's different systems put in place, be them DAOs or technical mechanisms, or even algorithms that are able to protect us from bad actors. But coordination is always a really big pain point that I don't think that it's fully solved by anything, especially because even in DAOs there is some certain risk with collusion and tampering and whatnot. So I think that there is still work to be done.
Yeah, I would like to maybe go to Kiki. Do you see any solutions to that? I think like the coordination problem is a very interesting one. Like how or what are ideas around like working together in a very decentralized way and come and even like the DAO, but like it's true what MP said, right? Like there is a big coordination problem. Like everybody is going in their own directions and it's just doing whatever they want basically. So what is a way to make sure that something gets done in the end?
Yeah, I think it's something that every organization has to figure out how to do that. Even if you're physically together or if you're not, it's a matter of I would say like setting common goals. But then again, in a decentralized world, when we often talk about it, like the difference between decentralization as in the product is decentralized or decentralization, do you have to work decentralized? Like it doesn't necessarily have to be both the same, if you are making decentralized products or decentralized, whatever tool or whatever you're making, you can do that in a way that you just set goals and say like, okay, this is what we're going to do. We'll do it. Let's say we meet each other tomorrow or like in a week or whatever, and this is going to be done. Who's going to do what? And then it's not in that case, it's not a really decentralized way of working. It's not like everyone does whatever he or she wants and we'll see whatever comes from it or this and that. So I think that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is just like, let's let the thing flow and see whoever contributes to something more like open source development, but then you never know what you're going to get because no one is actually leader or no one is steering something at a certain direction. So I think there's different ways to do it, and I'm not sure which one is good or is the best or whatever. So from all the experience I have in different kind of organizations, I think it's like wherever I'm at right now is make sure that everyone feels happy what they're doing. I think that's a good start, like what you're doing, you feel proud about it and you're happy about it. And then the way you do it, if you have a really hierarchical structure, whatever, or like a boss, but everyone's happy, like, okay, that's fine. If you're okay with a product going away that you're not, like you don't know at the beginning where it's going to end at, if that's what makes you happy, like, okay, I'm fine with it, then it's good too. So for some, I don't have specific way, like this is the best way to do it. And I think every kind of organization has its flaws or its trouble, like there's always going to be friction between people. Like, oh, I thought we were going to go that way and now it's going to go that way. But so it's always a matter of like, okay, coming together, like who's happy about things, who's not, like speaking up if you're not happy, enabling people to speak up, like, like don't say like what you're saying is stupid, just listen to everyone in an organization. And then it doesn't really matter what kind of structure you have, like as long as everyone can say what they think. And then I think it will go somewhere. Wow.
Can I add something?
Yeah. Sure, yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, I feel that striving for happiness of an entire group is a very, very nice goal, but it's a little bit abstract and really hard. I actually congratulate anyone that can achieve that, and I would be super impressed. I think that a simpler way to do it is boiling down what it means to each of us to work together, and then aligning incentives and aligning goals. And that's of course it's not as good as happiness, but it's a good start to make sure that everything's on track.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like the happiness factor, it's like very abstract. It's true, but it's like in an organization, you always have to set like what's most important, right? Like is this going over this or that? So you kind of make a hierarchy in whatever you want in your group of people. And I think just, okay, happiness is too abstract, but if you say like people can, I think the most important thing is if people don't feel good about something, that they can tell someone or can throw it in the group, because that, like that way you can change things. And then the happiness is, like derived from that, like not being able to steer something, it makes people feel, anxious or whatever. So yeah, Michelle, you were going to say.
Yeah, no. So Constanza, you have been doing community management. What were? So I guess it's like quite challenging, right? To keep a community happy, and I'm not like, but happy, as you said, it's almost like a very naive thing. But let's define happiness as people feeling the security and the ability that they can reach their goals and feel proud about that, right? At least that's what makes me feel happy. But Constanza, have you felt like, how do you say this, like in the community, almost like the emotionality is like in one stream, like where people come together? And how do you manage this?
Yeah, I think that, like the way to, and the challenge to keep people happy is to keep people informed, because being happy means being content where you are, and being content where you are requires a lot of awareness about what are the challenges, what is being done to make you content about where you are. And that requires putting in a lot of effort on the side of the community manager and also on the side of people, because you can't be content if you don't have a full picture of where you are. But having the full picture requires you to actually put in a lot of efforts to understand everything that's happening around you. Like, I think that is the main challenge. It's like on the personal side is finding and putting in the personal effort to being fully aware of what's happening and what are the challenges and the roadmap ahead. And that, of course, it doesn't come easily, because then everyone has their own personal life going on. So it requires a lot of dedication. So I think there is a very human limit to that. I don't know if you agree with that.
Yeah. So if I hear you correctly, you say basically that a shared vision, a very transparent shared vision, like this is where we're going to, is important for people to feel included.
Exactly.
In this. So I would like to segue a little bit to the next topic, if that's okay. the idea is, and it's a twofold idea. So I think everybody can agree that we want to address or to have a very diverse kind of people, and let's call them users, for the technologies we are creating, and not only like directly for, you know, a product like Golem should be, it's probably very abstract for most people, but the things you can do on top of that, or the things you can do on top of Swarm, or on a blockchain, these are things that people, you know, that will touch with, you know, normal people, let's call them, like users. And so to me, always a big sort of internal conflict is that I strongly believe in the idea that code is law, and that if you have the ability to write code and to create products, that you are very powerful. And this is, to me, almost like a godlike power, because you decide where people are going to click and what will happen, you know, behind the scenes if they do that. But of course, this is like a totally non-working idea, because if only people that have the ability to code and to actually create these tools are in power of, you know, who's going to use them and what they will be doing with the tools, then I don't know, I feel like we would go to a dystopian kind of future. So I would like us to talk about, I don't know the answer, by the way. I seriously don't know the answer. I've been thinking about this for years. What can we do to make sure that the things we build in our ecosystem, you know, are working for a very large number of people from a very diverse background? And I would love to start with Kiki, because she has been very hands-on in you know, creating products on the blockchain, basically.
Yeah, the whole thing about what you said, people who are able to code, they decide everything. It was a mantra that I heard when, like a few years ago, from all the guys, like if you're not coding, you don't have anything to say, basically. That's what they said. I strongly disagree, because I think it's very, well, from a certain point of view, it's true, right? If you're coding, you can decide whatever goes in it. But I think it's not very smart to think that way. It's like if you develop a car, you want the car to be driven by women, by men, by this, like a certain amount of disabled people, you know, like you're not going to make a car that's for blind people, but, you know, you're going to include as many people as possible. I think it's the same for products you develop, like for apps or whatever, like digital tools. And the only thing to build something that's inclusive for like a lot of people, you have to have people testing it or like using it, or like, you know, you have to get feedback from the people itself. It's impossible to get into the head of someone else. Like you cannot think about what, like how, like as a, just say a stupid division like men, women. As a man, you cannot know how a woman would use a product. Not that every woman is the same and every man is the same, okay, but you know, you have to ask women to use it. You have to ask children to use it. You have to ask old people to use it. You cannot get into the head of someone else. So I think the best way to do that is like build small prototypes and get people using your things. And
so I totally agree on that. But how are you gonna force in a decentralized way? How are you gonna force like developers to do that? Because the developers I know, and oh God, please don't get mad at me because I love them, but they are basically just doing whatever they want most of the time. And I mean, especially because this is a very research and development kind of space still. It's not that, you know, most of them are not really getting paid to come to do stuff. And even if they are getting paid to do stuff, in the end, they sort of do what they feel is the correct thing to do. So I'm going to Grace. Grace, how can we influence? You know, I know you are extremely active in this topic. So, you know, how can you influence people to actually build stuff that is, you know, for a lot of people and not just for the hacker?
So we started in this environment dealing with applications and tools that were absolutely difficult to deal with, right? Like they were completely the opposite of user-friendly, and they were meant to be used by people that knew how to code and that, you know, had a certain level of understanding of how these tools would work, right, behind the scenes. So I think we have evolved to understand that it cannot stay within that small group of people, that in order for any application or any tool or any product to be adopted, we have to bring some user friendliness, right? So I think that this industry has already taken this this sort of validation very seriously. And now we're looking at many type of applications out there that are very user friendly, that are really, you know, changing that whole mode, that bulky, you know, black screen of tools into things that are really nice and you know, easy to use. And I know because I'm working as well with projects that are doing these type of things. And what happens is that no matter who is doing the code and no matter who is the person behind the coding, the truth is in the customer's eyes, right? The truth is in the user. It's that. Do you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter how much you put in there a code that you think that's what it's going to be. It actually needs to be validated by a market out there, by people that are going to put it to use, right? And I think that that's where we are right now. We are now focusing and moving away from those bulky tools into things that are actually more user friendly for people to adopt. And I think if anything that we have discussed until now, adoption is all we look for, right? In the end, that's all what we're looking for. Adopting these tools, adopting these protocols, adopting these applications, adopting is the word that we need to go for and define what does it take to be adopted. You know, how do we make sure that we for other people that are not coders? And I think that we're doing a pretty good job. I think that we have evolved quite a bit. And I love to work with the guys and give them the reality check every now and then. So
Yes.
I only have to pick 2 or 3 users, put, you know, how they experienced it and how bad it was, if it was bad. And then, you know, the guys who are putting can get the truth away. So it's you have to show them, and you have to put them in their face.
Yeah, I definitely agree with your radical, honest approach. The things just, you know, just show people indeed, like developers, how basically crappy their tools are and how the user is completely lost in an interface and they will do something else. And B, do you see, what do you see? Do you see the same thing like in Golem, like people building on top of Golem, for instance? You know, do you see like an evolution in you know, how you call this, like user friendliness, I guess, or like an opening up to a larger group of people than like 2014?
Well, actually, for us, we tried first to go on a use case basis, thinking that we could achieve like a larger adoption that way. And then we realized that that was not how it worked. We overlooked the user experience and we made a lot of assumptions on the profile of how users and our user personas should be.
Wait, what do you mean by that? Okay, sorry to interrupt
Right.
you. I
Yeah.
really want to dive into that. So you're saying, what does this mean? We made assumptions on the user side.
So we basically thought that we had a prosumer market and that was conformed by application developers, by requesters, and by providers, and that the initial use cases should have gone to requesters and providers, so requesters of computing power and providers of computing power, and we would build the use case to validate our MVP. The truth is that once we built this, we realized that there were a lot of course, UX problems, and technology had evolved as well because it takes a while to build a project. And in the end, our target group ended up not being what we expected, and vice versa. We ended up not being what our target group expected.
And how did you? So what does this mean? Like,
right.
You said prosumers, but what kind of target group did you end up with then?
So we wanted first to direct our efforts towards the market of CGI animators, be it you know, small animators or big studios, and providers of computing power, which could have been everyone from you to a large data center. But then we realized that, of course, the technology was not really ready to go to market with only one monolithic use case, and that we weren't competitive as well with what was in the market, so centralized clouds, right? So that's why we just made the assumption that our product could work for all of these people. That are a lot of people. And right now we took a step back and we decided to focus on developers, which will build and are building right now, because our protocol is fully functional, are building the applications that they want, and they make their own assumptions. And then, the general audience will see a fully fledged application built on top of Golem, which they don't have to see. They don't have to know that the application is decentralized if they don't want to. If they want to do their research, wonderful. If they don't want to, that's all right too. They should just get an application which is as good as the regular applications that are in your phone, in your computer, or whatever, and then use them. So right now, what we're working on preparing a protocol that's robust enough for all these developers to decide their own use cases. And that in that way, we're starting smaller because the developer target group is more finite than CGI, animators, data centers, and all the big animation studios, and all that I mentioned. But at least, we know that we're on the right track by serving the developers, finding out what they need. And then, when once the protocol is ready, people will be able to build as they build with AWS. So we shrunk to broaden.
Yeah, exactly. So you basically took a step back and sort of put yourself in a sort of lower position where other people can come in. So Constanza, how did that impact your community? Like, these people are coming, they're coming for a certain vision, they are like rallying around a certain vision, and then suddenly, I guess, more from the dev team, or like sort of the marketing kind of angle, they would say like, no, we have to take a step back and do things in a different way. Like how do you communicate something like that, and how do you manage a community to get a new vision on that?
I think that for now we have an amazing community, and going back to what we said before, most of them are very happy, they're very informed, and they follow everything that's happening with the technology. But it's still very early users, so the shift that you just mentioned, I think it has yet to happen. I'm not sure if MP maybe can say something more about that.
Sure.
So what we inherited a legacy community that has been brewing since 2014. So when we onboarded Constanza and a couple of people more into the community team, they were lucky that they got the shiny new platform, which has a vibrant community of amazing developers. They're super qualified. We do still have a token holder community, which we appreciate a lot. And they are very harsh with us with feedback, which is, the right way to give feedback. But there is certain restraint on the fact that we decided to basically pivot and start building more for developers, because of course the token holder community after 4 years wants the project to sort of explode. But the truth is that we would be dishonest to ourselves and to them if we developed a project that we know it's not viable or sustainable long term. So it's mixed. The community is too diverse.
Yes, I that's like a really great segue, because this is not on our list of topics, so I'm going to surprise you with this one. But I think it's a very, very important topic to touch on, which is more and more I have a problem with this whole idea of tokenization and doing monetary stuff because at least for me, I wanted to be in this space and build things because, and this is really true, I really feel like this technology can change the world and can change how people interact with each other. And I always thought like, oh, this entire tokenization and the whole economics of it is just, a way to get there or to do things. But the reality that I've seen in the last couple of years is that it's basically become a little bit like Wall Street, but on steroids, right? Because there is no limits in ups and downs monetary wise. There is no rules, whatever. You can be totally anonymous. So it's basically one big, no, it's not one big, but it's a lot of pump and dump, and it's a lot of, so if you look at Swarm, for instance, to have this as an example. So we as a project, and it's also written in the book of Swarm, there's a strong belief that people will run nodes and will help decentralization because they can make money with it. And I strongly feel that if you look at the past, of historical like revolutions and changes in society, this was never about money, right? I mean, in the end, I know it's about money, but the thing is, people believed in a specific thing that needed to be changed. And they did it because, I don't know, I would call it intrinsic motivation. Whereas I see with the whole tokenization and the whole grab the money and run sort of culture, this is an external, extrinsic motivation. And so I really more and more think that there's like a big problem to this entire economic thing, basically. And yeah, I don't know the answer to that again, but I really wonder if this is the way to go. I believe that Ethereum, for instance, it's like a hyper-capitalistic system. And while this might be good to build technological projects, I don't know if you're talking about communities and people interacting with each other, I don't know if this should be tokenized in the form of money. So, but it always will, because as soon as you can trade a token, there's money involved, right? So Grace, what do you think about that?
About what? There was a lot there to unpack.
It was not really a question.
There was a lot.
I'll try to summarize it. So what I believe is, okay, if you want to build a bridge or a very big project, it's a good thing that you incentivize this with money, right? You say like, everybody can buy shares, and then we'll do 10 years of getting taxes for people that are crossing the bridge, and it will be paid back, and we have new infrastructure. But what if you say like, no, we want people to interact with each other in an honest way, in an open way, and create stuff together, like a better society? I believe this shouldn't be incentivized with money or with tokens, but with, I don't know, like goodwill, and like, I want to do this because I love my fellow man. I mean, not gendering, but you know what I mean, right? My fellow citizens. So how can we solve this? Or is it just not solvable?
I know what you mean. This is a very interesting remark, because I mean, I'm in the space for purpose-driven, right? I want businesses to be built around a purpose, and I want to make sure that the purpose is actually clear for the entire organization, and that it moves the organization forward, all kind of harmonized into meeting those goals, right? And then be able to give something back. So it is a wonderful idea, but the reality is that it's not really feasible. We have all kinds of aspirations and intentions, and we have to live with that, and we have to make the best out of it. So incentives are a way to start kind of aligning certain behaviors. And I think that's probably, until today, it's the best way to start aligning people towards the same goals. So incentives, be it monetary or in any other way, there's still incentive. What we see today is there's a propensity to go into the speculation, into the money, into being able to get that. I don't find that as a bad sort of way of carrying out things. I don't find it that it takes away from a purpose or a value that you're trying to embrace. but it's all in the mentality, right? And I think there's a big component there that if an organization its or its leaders are conscious leaders, it brings that down to the very bottom, to everyone in the organization. So I think that the leadership has a lot to do with how people, take things and how people go about doing or carrying on their work or their activities. So values and leadership and conscious leaderships are kind of like those two things are very profound in any type of organization and what we see coming out of that organization. So an organization as such, when it has that strong bearing, will project that very quickly to the outside world. And the people that will come or that will interact with this organization will feel that they are part of the same. So there's going to be an acceptance of values and exchanges because, we feel that we're similar. And the people that are not going to be part of that. So they're going to be part of something else.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we can avoid that.
Sure, but I think I would love to totally agree with that. But I think the reality is, for instance, and I want to hand it over to MP or Constanza. Like many people bought a specific token in an ICO because they are expecting. They are not even like interested in what exactly the norms and values are of a project or what they are willing to change in society, etc. But they're just saying like, oh yes, this is the future of decentralized computing. I'm gonna buy this token, and they better make sure that I have a 1,000% return on investment in 4 years. So MP or Constanza, you sort of have this. You started with like a very clear white paper, then shifted from that and said like, no, we need to do a different approach. Did you feel like these token holders did they have power over you or the team?
So not really. Token holders have a lot of power in what pertains to dictating the value of the token, but the protocol is almost completely decoupled right now. We have proven, and it continues to be proved, that actually token value does not mean value of tech, and that's a cool thing. I do think that in order to be able to develop freely and without pressure, we need to decouple the platform from the token.
What does that mean? Sorry, but what does that mean? Decouple the platform from the token?
Because the value of the token does not mean that the platform is valued in the same way, and at the same time, the token cannot dictate the fate of the platform. The token serves as incentives, and it can serve to be a utility within the platform, but it should be decoupled unless it's a platform where you're voting with the token or you're staking to secure the network. That's not our case. Our token is a medium of exchange. That said, I think that there are a couple of things that are really interesting to note. And for instance, what's an intrinsic motivation doesn't mean that it's good or sustainable. I think one of the most interesting things to see is to actually learn about the open source project and the problems it has when a project or a software reaches maintenance stage. I actually heard a very interesting podcast with Nadia Ekbal from the Ethereum Foundation, and she was explaining the problem with building software and later maintaining it. Software is never completed. Software always needs to continue to be built, and the job of the maintainer is very unrewarding. It's very boring as well because it's nothing new. You're not building something that people will notice and get excited about. A software release, a patch is not very exciting. It's something that exists. So what she mentions is the problem with maintenance being so unrewarding from a monetary part, from recognition, which is something really important in the open source scene. So I do think that actually having a stake, be it in token, being a really good pay or something other, you know, we can think of other thing, matters a lot. So that's why I think that, you know, sometimes it's not very easy to just have a really great idea and think it's great for the world, because that idea needs to be maintained for sometimes decades. I think the oldest open source software is actually around 50 years old. So it's very tough and someone has to do it. You know, someone has to build railroads as well, and building railroads is not exciting. So that's why I think, you know, everything should be treated separately. And in the end, yeah, by all means, you know, it has to be about incentives, including money.
Okay, well, thanks, MP. So Kiki, to go to you. Still, I believe, MP, it's not a critique, but I still believe that the longest during projects in history that don't have anything to do with money, but with belief systems and with like storytelling and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, it's naive, but I've been watching Star Trek, this movie Star Trek First Contact, it's called. And basically what they say is, you know, they show you a world where humanity has gone beyond money and poverty and food. And so I really believe that it is, so my ideal world would be that with DAppNode and things like Swarm, people are just helping each other out to create a technological society where, you know, the basics are just there, and we do it because we want to take care of each other, and not because, you know, I'm gonna make a lot of money with it. So Kiki, you were like doing like, you know, like shaking your head earlier when I think Grace or I was saying, like, so what was all that about?
No, I was shaking my head as in no, when it's about the influence of token holders. I think, like, especially when you have token sales in that, and there's just a vast majority of them that are just in there with no interest in the project whatsoever. Just the idea of, okay, new crypto projects might go up a lot, might make a lot of money. So I think we have to take into account that there's like a big part of them that don't really care about what you're making, as long as you're legit, right? They just do a little research, like, are you frauds or not? And that's just a way of how it is right now. I think there's like people getting attracted to the idea of making a lot of money. Okay, as long as you can, you know, take advantage of that, like getting a little bit of money to fund your projects, I don't see any harm in that. So that's why I think you don't have to be too worried about token holders steering your project, as long as it's not like, you know, for like voting or anything. If it's just, they're just in there for the money and they get out once it goes down or up.
But aren't they voting in a way? Because if you do, for instance, a token sale and your whole capital is in your own token, and you want to use that to build your product, and suddenly the market decides like, oh yeah, this is not interesting anymore, then the value of the token drops. And aren't they sort of voting then on the future of your project?
I think in this whole space, things have gone up and down again, and we see it like with no link to the value of your project, right? Like if the whole market goes up, every project's token goes up as well. If the market goes down, every project's token goes down. So it doesn't mean, I think if you're smart enough, you see, it doesn't mean that the project all of a sudden have like gone totally wrong. You know, it's just the whole market going up and down. So you have, it's a reality in this space that like all the tokens go up and down together with the whole market. So decoupled from the value or the whatever they're building. So that's one thing. If you know that, people are not, I think, will not be too scared, like, oh my God, the token has dropped, so the project must have gone totally wrong or something. So that's one thing. And then the second thing is, yeah, don't totally depend on the value of your token. But I guess if if it has been a token sale, you kind of got other tokens, you know, like you got Ether or Bitcoin for a token, you know, like, so in that case, you kind of have your little bit of starting money to get your project going. And then it's just a matter of like maintaining or your funds, like, or, you know, keeping an eye on your funds. And if the market goes down, you know, do some smart spreading or whatever, you know. That's, I think these are all separate things. You know, you have the whole Wall Street kind of thingy with the tokens, and then you have project with their money, and then you have tokens in your project. And these are all a little bit mixed in this space because, you know, you don't have any control over the market going up or down with your little project. So
Grace, you were raising a hand, I think. I don't know if you did it by accident or did you want to respond to that?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that we have created this monster. I mean, it's us doing this. I mean, we have created what we have today, and there is this speculation is not gonna go anywhere, and it's actually gonna get worse because there's greed and there is the taste of that sort of satisfaction from making that, you know, 200% or 500% or 1,000% in a matter of just a few days and be able to gain benefits from that. So I think that that's not going to go away, but it doesn't mean that everyone is like that. And as you were saying, Michelle, there is a community out there. There are people out there who have different intentions, right?
Yeah, I want to ask because we have to sort of round it up.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to say that.
No. I mean, we could go on for another hour, I think. But to round it up, I would like each one of you to ask, and I know it's a bit maybe a silly girly question, but I would like to ask all of you, like, what are the, if we're talking about norms and values and like a value hierarchy, what is your top number one value if you interact with someone, let's say on an event, and you just encounter someone is coming up to you and it starts to blah, 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 talk to you about your project or anything. What is the value that you're looking for if you decide that you will continue the conversation with someone at night, you know, in a bar or something like that? You know what I mean? It's like, you know, I know people have come up to me and they start talking about the token price of a project, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, ignore, you know, I just walk to another place. I just start waving at Dimitri Palchun, for instance, at the conference, you know, trying to get his attention. But you know what I feel like. To me, the most important thing is if someone comes up to me and starts talking about questioning what we are doing, right? It's like, do you think this is a good thing we're doing? And then I'm like, okay, now we're gonna have an interesting conversation. So MP, what is that for you? Like, when do you decide, like, okay, I'm gonna have a conversation with this person?
When I'm not busy. Basically, you know, I think that everything has its space and its time. Sometimes, you know, from the old world, when we used to go to conferences, I found it very, very hard to actually start conversations because I am not good in small talking. I can talk and rant for hours and hours and hours about, you know, things that I believe on, things that I like, or general stuff. But, you know, weather conversations are not my jam. So I think that conferences are great for people that are very outspoken and that are very extroverted. But the thing is that we work in a space where most of the people are introverted, as myself. So, you know, I think that people should be a little bit more aware of thinking of if the person is a little bit reticent or something, or is in a hurry, you know, and it's clearly going somewhere. You can see when someone's going somewhere. To just, you know, say hello, be kind, smile, and when a person wants to talk to you, they will find you. Trust me. You know, we have so many social media. You can tell people, hey, let's have a conversation later, you know, but you always need to be a little bit more empathetic and see body language before doing that. And the same for myself. I have to, you know, I have to be better at body language and also listen to what I want to do, or, you know, what I should do at the moment.
I can't wait to practice that with you in real life at an event. I'm sure we will. I will keep like meters of distance before I approach you at a conference. That's gonna be a lot of fun. Costanza, what are the things that trigger you? When do you say, like, okay, I'm gonna have a conversation with this person, or you're like, nah, I'm gonna get away from this?
I think something that is also a very self-critique, because it is something I would like to be more. And I always make the effort is to be open and welcoming of anyone with any point of view, even the opposite of mine. I actually love it. And I really like when someone is exactly the same. And it's difficult because it requires you to take a step back and, you know, welcoming whoever comes to you with anything. But I think it gives rises to the most beautiful conversations I've ever had. So yeah, I think that
So a
openness.
different, yeah. So someone challenging you or coming with a different opinion is more important than someone echoing what you think, right?
Yes, but doing that in a very open way, in a very open and welcoming and not judging way. I've been to conference where I didn't know anything about the technologies, and I had amazing people explaining to me literally like the basics of the basics. And I felt very welcome, and made me want to keep talking with them for hours and hours. And I did it. It was the best.
Yeah, there's not a lot of sleep at the conferences, indeed. Grace, same question to you. Like, what kind of conversations do you enjoy the most?
So I like the conversations that take me to kind of the creative ones. So being open, being creative, being innovative. And I like the conversations to be not about a self person, but, bigger than that. Communities, humanities, kind of like, and you can tell right away when a person is very much self-centered and, the agenda is to get something for the benefit of that person, versus a person that when you talk to, they have an interest in something more broader than that, right? Like they want to be able to talk and conceptualize and discuss things that are good for many, not just good for one. And I think that's what makes it very clear to me whether I want to talk to that person or not.
Yes, yes, that's who you are, Grace. It's like I love it. Kiki, same for you. If we are not standing together next to each other at a conference, and people approach you, like what are the kinds of things that trigger you, into a conversation?
I'm not running away. No, I would. No, I to begin with, I totally agree with what has been said, and especially you, Grace. Like people that are interested in the like mankind and how can we evolve, whatever that interests me always a lot. And I always like to talk with people that are emotionally intelligent. I like people that are like on the psychological level thinking of things and not just into practical things. I like to, like philosophical way of thinking. That always interests me, it triggers me, and it makes a good conversation for me. And hopefully I can say something intelligent back, not always, but I try my best. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So yeah, we have to round it up here. I want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart that you could and wanted to participate in this conversation. I think this might be, I think this is really interesting to see, something else than a white male in his 40s talking about technology. So I'm very happy we did this and could add this to the Liberate Data Week. Thank you all so very much. I just have to basically throw you out of this Zoom call. I mean, at least you have to disable your camera and mute because we have to move on to the next speaker. Yeah, thank you all. It was an amazing conversation, and I hope to see you all very soon, and especially in real life at an event. So bye, everybody.
Thank you.
So yes, we should have like a tune or a jingle to make this transition a little bit more funky, but we don't have that. So we're just going to continue with the program. Let me look this up. So the next speaker is Dimitri Palchun. I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly because I'm not fluent in this kind of languages. Dimitri is gonna talk. Dimitri, are you there? You are muted. You can basically unmute.
Unmute. Yeah.
Yeah, there you are. So did you hear the previous conversation?
Yes. But I was busy to prepare my presentation as well. Probably I haven't heard everything, but one of my ears I was here.
No, that's totally fine. So you're gonna talk about dApplets. I suggest that we first listen to your talk, presentation, and it would be lovely if I could ask you some questions afterward.
Yeah, I will it will be quite brief presentation. Dapplets is about to insert some kind of augmentations into existing websites. And because the existing websites probably doesn't like it, or yeah, we just don't ask for permission. That's why every models, any models from Dapplets are stored in Swarm.
Okay, so I'm gonna leave this Zoom call. I'm gonna mute myself and shut off my video so you can do your thing.
Yeah, what I will do, I will just show you the video because I have now a lot of time, so we have a small video for our hackathon presentation. This hackathon presentation that's work in progress, but it's currently working. You will see what the Dapplet is, and then I will see how we develop it. You will give briefly understanding how easy to develop a Dapplet with the Dapplet platform. So we are developing a platform, but you are free to develop Dapplets as applications on this platform. So I have to start to share my screen. Just a moment. Screen. Can I share? Can you hear it?
Yeah, I see your thing. Yeah.
So, although you see the YouTube channel, but it's a Dapplet attached on the channel, and you see this upload to Swarm, the button. It doesn't belong to YouTube. It's augmentations. Additionally, it's a Dapplet, and you can just select the quality, and you can start downloading and uploading to the Swarm, and it's available there. Becomes available, and then it will be done later. I hope we will be ready until Sunday. You will be able to attach it to Twitter or to another parts in the web. So once more, what is it? You have small augmentation, which is a Dapplet. Just in the back. Yeah, you have small button or small augmentation, which is additionally to initial website. You have overlay where you have place for better. Just back. You have place for more place for your workflow, no? And essentially you can extend any website with your workflow. So it's very easy to develop it. So it's what you see here is essentially, this is a Dapplet. There's only 50 lines of code. Everything else is inside it's an example essentially. Everything else is inside our platform. And oops, yes, just started. You start the development server, and yeah, it's running. Just once more. I don't like the alert. We will see. Then I open the Twitter. In the Twitter, I see this example too. Just to refresh it. And it's a button. It's make alert, and it changes state. It's a small Dapplet, and as you see, you can just. I would just drop the alert message. I don't like it. I make it good. I change it. So, and then I can reload. once more. And let's get reloaded. It doesn't have alert, and it's essentially it's like it's hot deployment. Later, when you're ready with it, you can just go to developer and you can deploy it. But I won't deploy it right now. It's a bit longer process. So, and we are able to connect wallets. Just go to example 5. So, and then you can see the example 5. You can switch it on. Just you can connect the wallet. It's connected. You can send some REIMAGINING ethers. It's not the huge thing, but essentially, what is the huge thing? That the huge thing is that this doublet, this extension, is only 100 lines of code, and it works quite seamless. And this button has it's a state machine. So if you transactions go through wallet, it changes the state, and the button changes the state as well. It's very easy to develop it. So, and why we need doublets? The very last words. We need doublets because there are two ways of thinking of it. It's quite crypto-anarchistic way of thinking because every website where we see it's completely owned by the owner. Even this owner is decentralized. And if this owner has full control over the user attention and can do everything with the user attention, he can block this application owner can block user and do anything else. It's a not initial way to think like it was proposed by internet, because the initial way of thinking of internet was you have your own content, you published it, and then you can redirect to another location and so on. But now you publish your content on third-party platforms, and they own your content. So we can change it, but what we can change, we can break the owner's monopoly over the user attention. So we can extend the application monopolistic owned by application owner, and we extend it by another functionality. It's one way of thinking. We break an owner's monopoly over the user attention. Another way of thinking is that we we can inject business workflows into third-party websites without asking for permission. And the whole platform is completely decentralized, as the swarm is. Any modules are stored in the swarm, and registries are in Ethereum currently, but we will see because of high transaction costs. So that's what the doublet is. Yeah, probably that is.
Thank you so much, Dimitri. I'm really impressed by your approach to things. This is like really smart. This is really smart, I think. And I look very much forward to going to that GitHub link and installing that extension for myself. One question I had, just to clarify, these MetaMask transactions, what exactly do they do?
No, essentially, yeah, we will enable. You mean Hackathon application, no? And we need to store the mapping from YouTube ID to the SROM ID. And we need a registry for that. And currently, we can do registry only in smart contract because it's currently impossible to make concurrent writings from different users to FairOS. It's a limitation. That's why we need to use contract. If it will be possible, even without preserving an order, but if it will be possible to store, to write in one port from different users concurrently, without preserving the order, it's not blockchain for sure. The contract. Then we can just upload to SROM, get a link available for anyone, and it's fine. The limitation is that not anyone can upload to the pod, but only the owner. But there are a lot of owners here who can upload and attach video to another tweets or another content. The idea of this hackathon application is to store the content in SROM and reattach it to another content, to tweet, to Instagram, and everything else.
That's really smart. Thank you for that. One more question. What does es gibt über den keinen Herod und unter dir keinen Knecht? What does that mean?
Yes, there is no master over you, and there is no slave under you. It's part of all German law, and it's a word that the Hamburger senators must say when they become the senator, Hamburger senator, the old senator.
Yeah.
They must promise that they don't accept any god, any power over them, and they don't treat the other people who elected them as slaves.
I didn't know German politicians.
I
didn't know German politicians were such anarchists, but it's a lovely expression, I think, that you have.
Yeah, it's quite old. I suppose it's not really live currently.
Yeah, I agree on that. Okay, Dimitri, thank you so much for your presentation and talk. And we'll see each other tomorrow, right? Because you're going to present this for the jury, I suppose. I think they will be very happy with this entry. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
So next up in our Saturday program, Dimitri, if you could stop screen sharing and maybe disable your camera. So next up in this Saturday open day for the Liberate Data Hackathon week, we have Nicolas. It's really funny because we both speak a little bit of, no, Nicolas speaks French, I speak a little bit of French, so it's always fun to practice this. So Nicolas is working with Vision, and they are doing, please keep listening, they're doing radiology on Swarm. So Nicolas, please go ahead with your presentation. I'll come back to you with some questions afterwards.
Okay, so hello everyone. So some of you might know us. Let me share my screen. So now you should be able to see us, to see the screen. So we are Vision. We are a teleradiology platform. So I'll show you and explain how it works later. So we have been using Swarm and Guess for backend since 2019, and we started to have a production, which means working with a real client continuously by the end of 2019, pretty much right before the COVID hit the world. And we have participated in the Swarm launch event. So the idea of this presentation is present how much progress we have made using Guess and Swarm to do our job, which is teleradiology. So this is just to show a bit our vision about what is decentralized radiology, decentralized health. So basically, we believe that we need a strong reliability on the system and data security. We have seen it with COVID and also before that health structures are attacked by malicious people. Some health system might go down because they are centralized. And one of the ideas of using this technology stack is to add more security beyond the processes, as well as interconnecting the client, what we call the patient and our client, which are health center, together on the process. And also last thing is to add transparency and auditability on what is happening with the patient data and with radiologist data and all the health related data. So basically, how the teleradiology work, we have a health center, which can be an hospital, it can be a radiology center, which create all the imagery and all the patient data. We have a study request, we have all of the data related to the patient itself. We take the image and all this data, we'll integrate some AI to help for the radiologist to have a better diagnosis, faster diagnosis, and a more secure diagnosis. We then anonymize everything, so the AI doesn't know anything about the patient except the images, and there is no way for them to retrieve who belongs to who belongs the image. We do this internally. Then the image and all the data, including the report from the AI, will go to the radiologist. So the radiologist, we have all the data necessary, encrypted, so he can see everything in a secure way. He will do the treatment, so analyze the image, write his report, and then we'll send back the report, and then we will manage to send back the report to the hospital and or to the patient directly. So basically, what we are is a platform. We just transfer data from point to point, making sure it is secure, making sure that only the right people add the right data at the right time, and making sure that there is no change in the data that were not necessary. The last thing we do is to connect, to integrate fully the patient in this experience, allowing to directly, not only directly access all his data from the report, but also manage his consent. So if he doesn't want to, if you want to stop the process in between, he will be able to do. If you want to start again, will be or to have a second advice, will be able to directly have access to a radiologist. And the last thing we have implemented is a full AI solution for hospital who want to have a very fast diagnosis on things like COVID, to be able to do some triage without having to wait for a radiologist or for a human resource, because human resources are very scarce. So now, so how we are doing this with the Swarm and the Guess technology. So we have our own private network of what we call vEngine, which contain the various applications and like Swarm, Guess, and or some front end and other process. So it's a multi-actor trust universe, which means that all the hospital personnel trust with vEngine, but only have to trust this and to trust the fact that we hire competent and valid radiologists. They will only interact with this with their own machine, and will manage to transfer all the necessary data to the radiologist, to some other process to make not only the diagnosis easier but to have some tools around to make the experience of the radiologist or the experience of the hospital much better, and to the AI. So all the logic is handled using smart contracts. So everyone is Ethereum address using around smart contract on a private network. We don't have common or standard web 1.2.0 technology, except for small applications that are not linked to our core job, which is transferring data and managing the rights. We have obviously a full encryption for everything, as it is sensitive data. So we need to make sure that only the right person are seeing the right data, and also at the right time, which is very important. And with this full decentralization, we have never lost actually one single data from a patient, which usually happen like between 1 and 10% of the time for regular radiologist, regular teleradiology platform. And we never had this case where we lost a patient, where we lost any data related to a patient. And last thing we have implemented is thanks to the blockchain and to the storage system, we're able to do very advanced automation, because integrating and connecting with the hospital system is quite hard. So, and also sending image to AI can be very complex. So we built a lot of automation to do this smoothly. So now our network work is basically we have very big nodes that are full nodes, and we put a lot of light node which would participate in the storage system inside health center, because they might have a connectivity issue, internet problem. So for us, that's a strategy that works the best because of all of these constraints. And we have implemented successfully this network in all of this type of infrastructure. So cloud network obviously was very easy. Private cloud for some of our clients, but we also have a physical machine inside of health center, which are also in a few layers of private network, and VM inside the health center as well, who are also on different type of private network. And the networking network have been quite an issue for us, but thankfully we have been able to connect all these nodes so they can communicate smoothly, exchanging data. So now we just do a bit recap of what we have done since the first event we participated in, which was the Swarm Alpha, the launch event. We participated in this event. We have shown quite a similar presentation of how it works, how our system work, and now I think it's interesting to show a bit of our progress from this period. Also noting that it includes COVID, and we had to deal with a center being closed or lower volumes, but still we have multiplied by around 3 of customer, and it will explode later. 7 times more patients, so we have now probably creating our system around 30,000 patients. We have implemented our system for 2 hospitals during the COVID crisis, so they directly send from our system their image to an AI that allows them for triage between patients that have a very bad case of coronavirus and need to stay in the hospital, and patients who have benign case or no case and can go home. So this idea is to help them to use better the resources, because they lack bed for everyone. In the slide, in a couple of months, we said that 80% of the patients have to be treated within 1 hour, and what we are doing now is 96% of all our patients are done within 1 hour, which means that speed is very important, because we don't manage vital emergency yet, but we manage people who have to travel sometimes 1 hour just to have access to a medical center, and we have to work as fast as we can, because a lot of people need to have their image. They can come from very far, and the faster, the better, including we still need high quality result, but speed is quite important. And actually, it's a very big example on how we can use this type of technology, which is now slower than regular technology, but with some tweaking, we can still go very fast. And for one company, we have double the size of the staff, so for us, it's a big achievement. And as I said, we plug in 4 types of S data system. So we are dealing and making the link between very new and advanced technology, so with the 3.0 web, and we're connecting with very low and very old standard of data, but still we're managing to do it, and the blockchain system really allows us to do it smoothly, in fact, because it creates an ecosystem where everyone have a common API. So lastly, just before we do a small and quick demo about the system, we show some of the projects that we're planning to achieve in the following months. So the first one is a fully decentralized Diacon viewer. So the Diacon are the standard for medical images. So images like that. And our goal is to build a Diacon that will be host and read all the image from Swarm. So basically, we upload the dApp, and you will be able to read any images that you have access to, or your own images. So things that look like this. These are basically quite advanced image-driven tool, because you have to be able to zoom in, zoom out, change the contrast, and do a lot of complex measure on the image. The second one is a chat, because we need to enable the capability of the personnel inside the hospital and the radiologist to discuss about a patient, about some protocol, about a problem, about an emergency. And using a chat will be much better. The third one will be self-healing machine, which will be to use Guess and Swarm to do all the maintenance of all our machines. So we Guess will send some order for updating some package, for updating some application, for downloading some stuff, and all the Swarm will be able to be used to transfer all the config for the machine, and if the machine have a problem, to changing only to acting on one machine. And the last one is using a satellite connection, because one of the main problems we have actually is the fact that the internet is not very good in France, in a lot of places, and especially in places where we have our clients, which are places who belong to what we call the void diagonal, which is a place where people have very low access to internet, very low access to health. And one of our jobs is not only to save health center and to bring the health to people who don't have access or simple access to it. And using this standard internet provider and very efficient, we are planning to use some satellite connection directly for our engine, for our machine, to have a very reliable connection for our health center, because it's very important not to forget that even in France, we're supposed to have a very developed health system, but we have people who need to drive 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours to get access to a radiology center, and we lack a lot of radiologists and radiology centers. So the satellite connection is a must, because teleradiology fixes this problem of health access, but the core problem is internet. So this is how to contact me if you want to contact me to have maybe more info or for any reason. And now I will do a very quick demo of our system that I recorded Friday. So basically, you can see on the left screen the screen of a radiologist, and the right screen the screen of someone in hospital with creating a patient. And you have to note that a lot of these actions that appear on the screen are fully automated, because we receive the image from the health system, And from this image, we can create all the patient and retrieve some data and directly send it to the radiologist. And so there are two different machines on our test network. And this is all happening in real time. In fact, it's just two screens recording at the same time. So here we simply create the patient. On most of our system, it's already created like this because it's triggered when we receive our image. Then we add all the necessary health data. So the quotation is a system that tags the exam to describe what kind of exam it is, if it is a radio of a hand or a foot or MRI or echography or whatever. Here we add the prescription that is created by the doctor. Which is important to note is that we have this little line here which represents when a transaction is sent to the chain. Because we have a blockchain, the transaction or the action needs some time to complete. And we try our best with our system to hide this fact and have a reactive interface to make it seem that it's smooth. So now we are clicking to send the patient to the hospital, to the radiologist. And when the patient is sent, which is right now, it instantly appears in his work list. So now the radiologist is able to see the patient. So he's seeing the prescription, the quotation. You have a text field to write his report. So now I'm just to show how this smoothing happen. Just put the health center in a report ready mode, so we're able to see when the difference between when the radiologist sends the report and when the partner of the hospital can see it. So we simply radiologist will do his job. So for now, you have to download all the image as a zip and read it in his own interface. That's why we want to develop our own tool to read directly the image from the radiologist screen. Now he will basically dictate his report or write it, save it. When you click on save, it automatically uploads it on Swarm. And when you click on send, it sends the report. So now the action haven't started yet, but he's able to treat other patients. Basically, if there are other patients, it automatically open. And while he is reading the exam for another patient, this exam is going to the health center. So from that way, it takes a bit of time, but still haven't happened. But for the radiologist point of view, it's already done. So in his point of view, it's very fast. And because this is an action that should succeed as it is a simple transaction on the blockchain, we don't need to worry about showing a failure. If there's a failure, it happens right back. But from the radiologist point of view, it happens instantly, while in fact, it needs to be integrated in the block and take a lot of time. And then it's instantly here, so they can see the report. Usually, we will send directly the report in the health center system, and they will be able to see it in their own data management system flawlessly. So that's all for me. If you have another question, I will stop sharing my screen.
Thank you so much, Nicolas. As always, very interesting. And I do want to mention that you guys are actually running Swarm in production, right?
Yes, actually, we are running Swarm in production since late 2019. So now it's more than a year of some production. The very first node was maybe the first version of Swarm. So, and we have started to use it in development way before. So we've been using Swarm for 2 years and 1 year in full production.
How do you deal with like breaking changes? If I can ask, like if there's like a new B client or a new version of a Swarm client, and things are still changing a lot in the code. So how do you deal with that?
So for now, because we had a lot of work integrating a new customer, we haven't made the switch yet on the big clients. So we are still working with thousands of patients on the old Swarm deprecated client, which is still working. So basically, we are in the transitions. We are creating a small private network to test everything, to test the connectivity, to test the encryption and all this feature. And we are probably going to switch to B in the following months. And as soon as we will switch to B, we will make an announcement and send you a message to share this achievement with you, and also maybe to share our experience on how switching on how we switch on B if had any problem, any issue like this.
Okay, thank you so much, Nicola. And I hope to see you later, of course. Next up, just a housekeeping message. We are running 15 minutes late. This is all my fault because I think we overdid the conversation at the start of this. But can I please ask every next speaker to try to keep your talk within the amount of time that has been scheduled for you. You will have to wait for like another 15 minutes because next up is IPLD document signing with Binance Smart Chain CID, anchoring with XDV. I have no idea what all these terms mean, but I hope, Rogelio, I think, that you can explain all that to us. And if you're here, please unmute and show yourself. There you go. So how do I pronounce your name?
Rogelio.
Rogelio. Okay, awesome. So okay, I'll try to remember that. Please go ahead, give your presentation, and may I ask you to just keep it 15 minutes? That will be really cool. Thank you.
Yeah, can you also enable Luis, my partner in the presentation?
Sure. I think Gasper can do this. So Gasper, do you know what's needed there?
Is
yes.
Luis in the call, or I can?
Yeah, he should be in the call.
Is Luis in the call? Yes.
Yes, here I am. Hi.
Oh, you're both named Rogelio.
Yeah, he used the other my other email account. Sorry.
And Luis, the weather seems to be like beautiful where you are. Can I ask where you are?
Thank you.
In the beach.
Yeah, I'm in the beach right now, in a family trip right now.
Awesome. In what country are you?
Panama. We both in Panama.
Oh, okay. You make me dream now. I'm in a very, very cold Belgium, and there's like still snow on all the roofs. Everything that seems so lovely. I can't wait to fly again and to go there. So anyway, now you guys are enabled, both of you. You should be able to do screen sharing and anything you want to do. I'll come back maybe with some questions. Let's do this.
Okay, Luis. So we're going to show you like we started the last 7 to 8 days doing this kind of we don't know when we had a hackathon with the Swarm Foundation. We still started this hackathon. So because the Swarm version 1 was stopped, the actual application that we had is not demoable. So we needed to have something to show our customers that we were transitioning to some other new system. And also we required to have integration with blockchain. But at the end of the day, the Ethereum issue with the gas, which is pretty expensive right now, made me decide to use because it's a hackathon, try to use Binance Smart Chain. And so far we had a pretty stable integration with Binance Smart Chain. We also resolved the gas issue. Being that said, we were able to focus there on the wallet feature, which is we're also going to show you the source code for that. We have something that they call universal wallet. So we are able to sign documents and do transactions in the blockchain. So we also have this in the demo. And then we have IPLD. For now, we're using IPFS. But the ultimate idea is that IPLD can be integrated with Swarm. It's just that nobody has done the multi-hashing, multi-codec for that yet. We are thinking about proposing a grant later in the future, so we be able to use the storage side of Swarm with IPLD, which is for us is a huge plus because you're talking linking graph, and that allows you to do some kind of a pretty cool stuff with the ID and documents. So maybe we can show you something that we have, Luis. Maybe you can show you some code or do a bit of a demo. Luis, maybe we can start with the Binance Smart Chain integration. We can show you the code for that.
I think Lewis is muted on that account. Still muted?
Yeah, I'm not that familiar with Zoom. Sorry.
There you
All
go.
right. Okay. Okay. This is the screen that we use to sign documents. Right now, we are in a version to fully integrate in mainnet. Right now, I'm using this demo to upload documents into the IPLD network, which will work, and in the future we're gonna switch to Swarm. But right now we are doing it with a Binance Smart Chain integration, and it works pretty. It works in a representative way, which you can see. You can log in with your wallet, and let's see. Yeah, so it is login, as you can see there. You have your.
Can you share the screen?
I'm supposed to be sharing it already. Let me see. It said I'm sharing. Let me go ahead again. I try to share it again. Yeah, I'm definitely not familiar with Zoom. Can you see something on my screen? It said it's sharing already. Can you see my screen right now?
I don't see your screen. No.
No. It said it's sharing.
We had the initial PowerPoint presentation, then it went off.
Yeah. Well, I hitting stop share, but it doesn't do anything.
No worries. Just take your take your time.
Let me take out the video. Maybe the bandwidth is messing up. See. Oh my. Okay. So.
It's okay, Luis. It's a lot of fun actually to hear the birds in the background and to pretend that I'm like near a beach in Panama. So I could listen to that for like another hour. So don't be stressed.
Yeah, it's very relaxing here. Maybe that's keeping me from throwing my computer away, but.
Well, maybe there's like a geographical lock, so you cannot share your screen while you're on holiday. Let's say.
Let me see. Okay, let me try this again.
Yeah, this
awesome.
is working. Yeah,
awesome.
Perfect.
Yeah, perfect.
All right. Let me take this out of here. All right. Okay, this is it. All right. Okay. I'm gonna refresh it again. Okay, as you can see here, I can unlock my wallet. I previously set it up so I can have balance and all, so I can sign documents and also upload them. Right now, as you can see, I just sign up, and you can see I have an address, and also I have a decentralized ID, which was set up when I created the wallet, which identify me as a carrier of the person that's going to upload the file into the decentralized storage, and we are using, as I said before, IPLE right now. We're going to switch everything to Swarm, and it is working as you can sign documents by uploading them here, and in the end you're gonna receive an CID, which is stored in the blockchain. So you can, right now, as you can see, it is emitting gas. So we managed to create the contracts and have everything working in the properly, but we still need to work some things out to manage to get everything to work properly. And when you accept the gas, then the file is uploaded and you receive a CID. The CID can be used to retrieve the file in the future when we have all the documents uploaded, listed in the web page, so you can so the users can check the files, all that been signed and all that been and all that can share to other users, and with no need to of any hardware to sign the documents. And well, we are dealing to get this to work in our country. So we were pretty careful to acknowledge and to know all the laws needed for us to for us to be able to sign the documents, and it can be properly sustainable into our laws and into our I say
Okay.
the
So to answer Gregor's question about IPLD, IPLD is like a agnostic linked data graph or data structure for JSON LD documents. So it's a kind of a Merkle tree structure where you can store similar kind of structures, having kind of a format, a schema, or a data schema that is provided by the IPLD architectural specification. So say you want to store linked data like in Git format, you can use the Git IPLD connector or adapter. There's also a Bitcoin and Ethereum. Then you have the different kind of storage. In this case, right now there's only the IPFS store, which handles the storage for this kind of different kind of data structures. But in theory, and I asked in the forums, in Swarm forums, we could use Swarm with IPLD, but that's not been proposed by anyone yet. There's not any open source. We're trying to see if we can achieve that in the future. But yeah, that's pretty much what we have. I think we already have 15 minutes. Like I say, we have IPLD, Binance Smart Chain, and we have a wallet. Maybe you can show the open source wallet that we have in NPM, Luis. We intend to do a lightweight version of the wallet to do a standardizing universal wallet specification, which we think is going to be the next future of wallet technology. Besides digital signing, that's the other technology that we focus entirely in our business, which is wallet. We have done several wallets for different kind of companies around the world. But yeah, we this is the version 1 of the product. We also have a version 2, which uses an NFT, non-fungible token. And the reason to use non-fungible token is that we want to be able to have a kind of a marketplace. You can think about something like a poor man social protocol kind of a feature. These both product version 1 and version 2 will allow us to have all these different kind of data tokenization or data structures for different business here in Panama. So that's pretty much what we have. We are pretty much coding a lot lately because Swami's version 2 is about to release. And of course, with this used to work with version 1 perfectly, but we need to keep our customers with the latest and greatest of technology. So thank you very much for your time, Swan Foundation. I don't know if there are any questions from the audience.
So I think, yeah, Gregor had this wonderful question you already answered. Because we are very limited in time and already like 15 minutes over time, I would like to round it up, if that's okay. I know you guys are, I think, in the B support group, which has become sort of our hackathon group. So I would invite everybody to have questions to find Rogelio and Luis there. Can people find you there?
Yeah, of course, I'm going to be all day dedicated to this endeavor. So,
thank you so much for your presentation, and Luis, enjoy your time in Panama.
Thank you for having us.
That seemed lovely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Next up, let me check. Next up, we have really interesting, Will and Luis, or only Will, I think. Not sure yet.
We'll see if Luis makes it.
Okay. Hey, Will, where are you from? Can I ask? I know it's a privacy invasion question, but
yeah, originally U.S., California, and then 13 years here in Kenya now, near Mombasa on the coast. Yeah.
So the Luis is the Luis you're working with, Luis Holbrook?
Exactly. Yes. Exactly.
Amazing. Let's see.
Yeah.
Okay, if you see him, send my warmest regards to him and give him a big hug. So, Will, you are going to talk about basic income, community currencies, and decentralized exchange, grassroots economics. I think that's wonderful because we had this panel before, and this is like the topic I wanted to, discuss a little bit about, like how can we use tokens in a not Wall Street kind of way. So I'm looking forward to your presentation. Please go ahead.
Can you see my screen here?
Yes, it looks wonderful.
Okay, so when the British first came to Kenya, they imposed this hut tax, and they charged everyone shillings to live, and you had to work for the British to get those shillings. And this was sort of like the mode of imperialism that sort of took over, post sort of like proper colonization kind of techniques. And the idea of a community going out and saying, well, we could actually create our own medium of exchange. It's a tough concept to have because you don't have the piece of paper and you don't have the right stamps and you don't have the right, printers and stuff. So back in 2010, I came out to Kenya and I had a security printer that helped us, and we just printed currencies for communities. So we'd go into a village and say, hey, did you know you can just make your own? And sort of tapping into old kind of cultural techniques where, pre money in, or pre sort of like script money in Kenya, there was a lot more sort of communal structures where, everyone would help build a house and then everyone helps build the next house and all that kind of stuff. So tapping into some of those older techniques and sort of replacing debt was what we started doing. So instead of like, what happens kind of, post-colonialism and just in today is that, unless there's money, the only other structure people go into is sort of informal debt systems. And those tend to kind of rip apart communities. So while as before there were sort of systems of sort of like chores and rotations within villages and things like that, it just became this sort of informal debt system. And so the idea of a community going and saying, well, we can make our own currency, it made a lot of sense here. Whereas, where I had studied these systems in the US and Europe, it was more of a cultural fad, like we're going to use a community currency because we're part of the like, bohemian elite. And there wasn't any sort of like like chronic crunch in a medium of exchange. And so, you've got the British sort of, creating this currency system here, and you've got the elite Kenyans sort of taking it over. And then you've got most of Kenya without a medium of exchange for huge sections of the year. And there's no sort of elastic, price system or anything like that here. And, where you would imagine, like, if capitalism worked well, the price of tomatoes would change because of the lacking of a medium of exchange. It doesn't happen. So it's just, capitalism never really worked here in the first place, and the monetary system never worked. So anyways, getting to the tech aspect of it, what we started doing in 2018 was replacing the paper vouchers with a digital voucher. We used USSD as an interface. So we have a server sitting there at a telecom that would connect people to a blockchain. And we've actually, we're on a third blockchain right now, these EVM side chains. And essentially we work with communities to create their own contracts. And this is all sort of, in the works and changing a lot right now. And Lewis will talk a lot about that, of how we're doing this. But essentially the idea is that the community establishes a claim against their future production, and they tokenize it. And there's signatories and validators against that claim. And then these tokens that circulate locally within the community, as well as outside, they can also exchange to other villages. And we're using liquidity pools to do that. And in general, those liquidity pools are all connecting these community tokens into a basic income token. And so this diagram kind of shows in a way, so like there's a contract. Actually, in the past, we were doing this a lot manually. And so we're working on these contracts right now. And Lewis might mention that a bit, but there's essentially an issuance. So as people join the network, there's tokens minted, a certain amount for each person, 100 tokens, and they circulate. There's a holding tax, like a demurrage or a holding fee, that goes back and then recirculates back into the community. And so that's available to everyone in Kenya. And we've just yesterday, we had a group from a refugee camp just starting to use it. We've got about 42,000 users. And last year we had about 2.6 million shillings or $1 million worth of these tokens just moving around. And these are just softly pegged to the national currency. And people are using them to replace how they would have a list of debts in the past, right? If you were a shop selling tomatoes, you'd have 5 people that have a debt with you, and you sit on those debts for a month. So in this case, they use this token, which we call sarafu, which just means currency, instead of that debt system. So they have a max level of sarafu they take. So it's really communalizing the debt within the community. And then you have these sub tokens, these community-based credit systems, which are based on future production. So two very different systems, where one is a community currency, we would call these, and versus this is a basic income. And the way we're connecting the community currencies is through liquidity pools against this basic income. And so it's all super interesting stuff. There's a huge amount of data. There's metadata that we're storing right now on Postgres, and we want to move that all into personal data stores, so that we work a lot with Red Cross right now, so that Red Cross can use that data and create impact claims, like with UNICEF and the UN, and the users producing that data, let's say it's environmental data or food security type data, actually can get rewards and capacity building. And so we really need some type of system that gives some sort of sovereignty to the data of users for all kinds of metadata that they're producing related to their transaction data. And in general, we've got, there's the basic modality is, again, like there's a community or an issuer creating a claim against goods and services and projects. That's also something that needs to be stored on chain. And there's a community, generally this is like a physical contract that gets scanned, and it's also signed by the chief and elders and that sort of thing. And there's tokens issued. It's a very simple kind of voucher system. This is kind of showing the liquidity pool. So you have 2 different tokens here connected through liquidity pools through a network token. And in our case, that network token is a basic income scheme. And that kind of gets us up to about today. Lewis will take over a little bit more on this, but just to say that all our users right now, all of them, 100% of them, are using non-internet connected phones to connect to the system. So we have a custodial wallet manager right now. Something like, in rural areas, 20%, and maybe in urban areas, it's like 60% of our users have the access to internet. And so we're trying to give them non-custodial systems this year. And so a lot of this, the stuff around decentralized data management is getting, like it's gonna be very, very important this year that happens. And so we start moving people off of the telecoms and onto, self-custodial systems, or non-custodial from our point of view. Yeah, I don't know. Lewis, can you actually talk?
I don't know. Can I actually talk?
Yeah, you can. Yay. Okay, here.
Right.
Do you wait? I stopped sharing, or I'll leave it here.
I think you cannot start screen share while the other participant is sharing.
Okay,
so
I'm stopping my share. Hold on.
Zoom puts a limit on sharing. No surprises there.
That's all you
I
know.
guess. Right. Yeah. So hello, everybody. Long time no see. Yeah. So I won't be talking that much about like the implementation of the system itself. I really wanted to speak more concretely about what we're planning on doing with Swarm in the short and midterm. So B and grassroots economics, GE, as stated. Yeah. So the first, and so we're currently in the rewriting the whole system and deploying on a new chain called Bloxburg. Next weekend, if the gods stand us by. Bloxburg is a consortium blockchain, a POA blockchain, run by a selection of, I think it's somewhere between 20 and 30 universities all over the world. And it's a EVM Byzantine blockchain, I think. So there's been a lot of effort getting the system ready for that, of course, and not really any time to look at the swarmy ends of things. But when it's out, then over the next few weeks, we'll be starting to bring this in. So the first thing we want to do, as Will was also outlining, is to put our metadata store on Swarm or on distributed storage. Metadata here meaning, as Will was saying, our current system is 100% custodial. We have all the private keys. So metadata in this sense means anything that's not on-chain or not a critical piece of data for some internal component operation in the cluster. However, even though the signer system for the customers or the users are in the cluster, we also have a staff client software which we're using. Staff client software here meaning the software that the staff is using when doing phone support with the users who are also monitoring activity on the network. And this is being designed towards being a full DApp, the goal being to totally untether it from the cluster itself. And of course, Swarm will be an important part of that. In terms of how we're storing metadata currently, we're using a CRDT scheme. We're basically signing every CRDT update with a PGP key so that when you consume the graph of changes, you check the key signing chain, and only accept the update chain if all the keys match the keys that you trust. We chose auto merge for the purpose. It was kind of a short-sighted choice because our cluster services are in Python and auto merge is only in JavaScript. So we have to probably wind ourselves down a bit more low level on the CRDT level for when we move this to Swarm, but that's all good fun. And of course, using CRDTs has another advantage, and that's for work in the field, typically in the rural Kenya and stuff, bandwidth is a scarce resource. And therefore, it's a really, really good possibility or a useful possibility to do local first updates so that you can, so that you sync when you get back on the network and collision free and everything. Our storage setup is already using it's already keyed with deterministic hash system, so it kind of is similar to the way Swarm already operates, also with the single owner chunks. So we're really just talking about an adapter switching the backend. I think that Swarm has a great value proposition in itself just for the data teleportation layer without the incentives and everything else. And basically, since bandwidth is also an issue at, say, office in Kenya, it would be useful to have a Swarm node running there to sync the metadata with the cluster automatically, and they can access where the data can be accessed directly from that node. And in that sense, we're looking at doing a private Swarm just between the few staff locations and the cluster in the first iteration. Yes. We have a few constraints on our use of Swarm. First of all, the USSD sessions, they're very limited on time. I think it's like 1.5 minutes, and if you don't complete whatever you want to do, then it cancels and you have to start over again. And also, of course, the staff has to do live phone support, so you don't want data retrieval times to be too slow. Therefore, we're a bit hesitant to jump into, dive in with both feet at the same time. So I've been thinking about a Web 2.625 approach, basically, which is more of a muxer component where we can fire parallel requests to Swarm, to IPFS, or to other agents, but also to a series of Web 2 mirrors. As long as all of these instances use a similar hash key scheme to retrieve data, we could do this with a small offset of a time offset. So basically, we try Swarm first, and then after 100 milliseconds, we try the first Web 2 mirror, and whoever is the fastest wins. But we could also embed a benchmarking system here, so that even though, for example, the Swarm retrieval would be slower, we could still record the round the retrieval time for live use benchmarking that could be used later for improvement purposes and stuff. I'm thinking maybe it would be fun to write this in Rust and put it into WebAssembly. But let's, yeah, if that's feasible, that's cool. We're also going to need a hasher for Python. I was thinking maybe writing one in C, because I'm going to need a very small object file hasher for different purposes. So write it in C and do Python bindings. So together with this, we're going to need an archiver service node, basically that when all of the staff and the USSD component are doing metadata updates on Swarm, we also need one node that kind of keeps the feed of all the metadata merges, so that we have like one or maybe several instances that are always online and have the full graph. Yes, a bit longer term, where, as Will was saying, looking at mix of custodial and sovereign services, and there comes in the personal data store, and to what degree would sovereign wallet users take over the user data already and the methods in the metadata store that we implement in the custodial side. We'd be moving to a public Swarm, of course, for all of that. Also, we have a contract called an address declarator, which basically is any address can describe any other address with an arbitrary number of 32-byte hashes. And that's basically those behind those hashes could be descriptions of off-chain non-virtual token reserves, like, for example, some signed document of I put 100 goats towards this CIC token. Could be identification assets like KYC stuff, Uniswap token list structures, and so on and so forth. All of these contents assets obviously would be stored on a distributed storage or Swarm. One other thing that would be nice to have is we are going to need searchable. So all the identities in our system is keyed, like the global identifier is the Ethereum address. So if we want to resolve, let's say, a person's name to an Ethereum address, we need some sort of search indexing engine. It would be a cool experiment to see if we could bring in something like a Berkeley DB or LMDB as WebAssembly into the browser, and then use feeds to keep to update the indexes the name indexes, and use Swarm as a random access for these database drivers to resolve name searches. I think I talked more longer than I should. Just briefly, a small wish list that we have from for Swarm. If we're going to use a semi-private Swarm, that is that is accessible from internet, but we don't want the risk of anybody sabotaging or hijacking our address space. It could be cool with a key level connectivity control for the node. This can be done as a proxy as well, but I don't know, it would be interesting to hear if you have thoughts like that for Swarm itself. It would be very useful if there is a payless way of doing Swarm. That is, if we could just remove the incentives totally for typically private Swarm setups. I don't think you really need the incentives token. Efficient multi-key store, what did I mean? Oh yeah, right. So you have so I have like a terabyte disk, and how many processes do I have to fire up to serve the store efficiently towards that? So it would be cool if it's possible to minimize the memory usage of each of those processes so that you don't fire up a full Swarm for every like 20 or 30 gigabyte segment of the store. And of course, it would be cool if Swarm is lean enough that it's feasible to run it on some shitty hardware in a village in rural Kenya. That's pretty much what I have.
Thanks, Gus. I might just add on the tail end there is just that like there's a huge push with UNICEF and Red Cross and World Food Program and GIZ from Germany that to build sort of humanitarian infrastructure and so data storage and private data stores and things like that, like and even humanitarian blockchains where there's no having Red Cross run 50 nodes is trivial, like they're and they don't the cost of them running that node is $20 a month or something to run that computer or something, it's and so we're running right now in Bloxburg or we're migrating to it, which is just a university chain. So I think that space is going to get bigger and bigger, and as long as there is like sort of to the moon for profit kind of stuff going on, it sort of scares off a lot of other folks. So anyways, I'm excited about that space growing quite a lot in the next few years, and just governments and even humanitarian organizations like tapping into that. So thanks, guys.
So Petra, can I ask you to just wait a second before sharing your screen and your video and etc. Because I have some more questions. Thank you for Will and Louis. Maybe, I don't know if this question is for Will or for Louis or both. So in the first panel discussion, we were talking about, I had an opinion on, I really sometimes don't like how the entire like incentivization and tokenization, for instance, with Swarm, it seems to be all about money and not about doing a good thing in the world. So what could we learn, or could we apply some of the things you guys are learning? If I understand correctly, the entire economy and the liquidity pool is generating a basic income for the entire for all the participants in this economy. Could this be a model for instance, for node operators to have this like also on future productivity?
Well, I mean, there's still, like for liquidity pools, for instance, like a liquidity pool provider, right? You're creating a contract that is, going to take a fee on volumes going back and forth, for instance, right? So if the Red Cross is creating a liquidity pool without any fees, well, that pool is going to get empty and no one's going to add back to it again. So those are useful things where you do want some sort of market-driven effect. Gas fees, though, on a blockchain, again, like, well, what's the actual cost and what's the investment there? And I think, getting into real costs, right? If your cost of running a node is actually $20 a month, well, then why do you need gas fees more than that, right? Like those are the kinds of questions. Like, do you need these for-profit sort of schemes to make, like investors happy and things like that? Or do you just need public infrastructure? And if it's just public infrastructure, well, we can run fucking public infrastructure. Like, it's not a big deal. We can have public libraries. They're not that expensive. So I think, if we can come in and undercut that market as humanitarian organizations, we'll just continue to do that. And to hell with everyone else, right? Like, and I'm really happy about that. And with Red Cross and UNICEF is to constantly tell them, look, you can do this yourself. Stop going to these for-profit motherfuckers. Like, you can do it. And so I'm happy about that space. And I think, of course, there is market-driven demand that can be healthy and good, and we want to find those places. But where it is just pure infrastructure, like, please, let's not put toll roads into it. Like, why build into the future for that? So that's kind of my philosophy. And I honestly, if we had to get VC to do all the stuff we're doing, it would have never happened, ever. So I feel like we're blessed to be in this role of creating service industries and, following from Java, like Sun Microsystems creating Java, like, those are the types of organizations we want to emulate, not these, like greedy for-profit kind of VC driven stuff. Yeah.
Well, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So as soon as this entire COVID thing is done, or I got vaccinated, you will see me in Kenya, discussing this with you and Louis all night long.
Yeah, guys, everyone come to the coast. And Louis, you got to bring Louis with you too.
Oh, he isn't there yet? Okay, Louis, of course.
Ben, but he's got to come back again.
Okay, I will pick up Louis somewhere in Germany and we will travel together to Kenya. I would love that.
Yeah, bring a vaccine. I chickened out because of lack of vaccines.
There's no COVID in Kenya, don't worry about it.
Okay, yes. Okay, Louis and Will, thank you so much for this very inspiring presentation. And seriously, I'm gonna check it out and we should definitely meet up. This is really interesting. Also in the, yeah, we'll talk about this later, but it's really interesting also for Fair Data Society and Fairdrive and how we are trying to approach the infrastructure to be, a commons or like, to be a utility driven by nonprofit organizations. We should definitely have a very much longer conversation on this in the future. So thank you, Will. Thank you very much, Louis. Next up, you already saw a hint of her. Next up is Petra with Ludensis Studios.
Atelier Ludensis, yes.
Atelier Ludensis. So should I pronounce it like French style?
Yeah, I think it's a bastardization of French and Latin. I'm trying to piss off as many people at the same time as possible, basically.
Well, yes, I think it sounds lovely, though. So anyway, Petra, I know you had to wait, for a long time, like 30 minutes delay we have by now, but it is because, all these projects are so inspiring. So go ahead, do your thing, and we'll see each other after your.
Cool. So the title of the project is Microspark Fate in the Land of Make-Believe, which is a whole bunch of words. Let me try and explain it, I guess. The land of make-believe. The world is dying. Your stories have the unique power to heal our shared reality by resolving the contradictions that are destroying it. Help us to teach the people in this world to create, and we can save the world forever. That's what I'm trying to do. The Land of Make-Believe is a live stream tabletop game with a unique world that fans help create using their own text, images, audio, and video creations. It's also the name of a famous painting created by Jaro Hess back in 1930, which combined a whole bunch of hundreds of fairy tales. Jack the Giant Killer, Jack and Jill on their hill, Mary Quite Contrary, and all the fairies dancing in the moonlight. All in one massive, huge, really epic world map of all of these fairy tales all together. And so it's kind of like creating that sort of space. And then Microscope Fate, or Microspark Fate, is a combination of 3 different role-playing systems. Fate is a very popular open gaming licensed scenario role-playing game, tabletop role-playing game that's based on playing through encounters mainly, and dealing with the interactions between characters, using characters and aspects of those encounters. Microscope is a world-building game that uses a fractal process of expansion by placing periods inside of other periods, and then putting events inside of the periods, and then locations in the events, and then scenes inside of the, over and over with layers to describe the flow of a history or a story. And then Spark into Fate Core is a brilliant piece of adaptation, which takes the Spark role-playing game, which is very similar in terms of world building, into the world of Fate Core. So I combine all of those rule sets into a sort of stack, which allows the players to move from building the world up and then focusing down into the minutia of an individual question arising in a scene. So a little bit more about what I do and where I'm coming from. I'm the CFO at the Fantasy Network, and one of our principal properties is The Gamers, which is set in this crazy world called Fartherall, which is also the subject of another series that we have called Journey Quest, which is probably our best-selling series. And we also have live games that we play at Gen Con and also on Twitch. In addition to that, we've got a huge group of collaborative storytellers and creators working together in the network to crowdfund together, to work together and share assets, to hire each other, to work on different projects, and to, you know, sort of shepherd the community and grow it as we move through our creative process together. And so this is also an ethic, fan supported in this process. One of the things that we discovered in I think 2014, I think we're the initial, we've got 8 seasons of Masters of the Metaverse. On Twitch, we were able to set up Python bots to lead interactions from the audience. There we go. So audience members are able to purchase special buffs and interact with the audience using comments that are read by an automated voice live in the studio. And we sort of pioneered this technology along with HyperRabbit Go early in the middle of last decade. Sort of our highest prize is the ability to create a hack attack. And audience members are allowed to create a scenario. For example, on Wednesday, we had an epic rap battle from a masked magicker who appeared in the middle of the session. And everybody did an epic rap battle. And they weren't ready for a rap battle, but it was epic. So this is kind of the way that the game is played on screen between the audience and the players in the improv, right? So role play. And these are some of the stories which we have this massive storyline set both in the real world with the characters of the gamers and in a fantasy world. Both of these are fantasy worlds, really. One is slightly more real than the other, right? And the idea is to take all of these elements and tie them together into a single website so that we can see all of these characters and all of these events and periods from a common framework. We need both the time dimension and the spatial dimensions. You know, where events occur is just as important as when they occur. And it turns out that we've actually got more dimensions than time and space. When it comes to the dimensions of the story, we actually have a few more pieces. And so this website that I'm currently building allows users, audience members, to submit content to be displayed as part of the story, or as part of the set, or as part of the background in the play. And those items, objects, characters, factions, whole worlds, are connected in a sort of, I guess, so I started out with the idea of Google Maps for Greyhawk, and I built that. But now I think what I want to do is create a tesseract and invite the internet to jump into it and then see wherever it takes us. So I'm inviting people to upload content to the website once it's complete and use that to construct scenes for the players to play. And submitting objects creates the potential for an NFT to be minted, which then can be combined with other objects as purchasables from within the Python store that can then be fed back in live audience interactions through collection NFTs in the ERC 1155 standard in order to allow unique user ticketed experiences where different elements have been selected from different parts of the story to be combined into a new unique scene, and the players have the ability to pull those items in from the website as well to drive their own narrative creative process. So this is basically the idea, and I'm still very much in the proof of concept stage. I have not developed token contracts yet, and the website renderer is not complete, but I have several other people working on the project on a volunteer basis, and several other players who are working on material. Yeah. Is there any questions?
Yes, Petra, this is amazing. I just like the extreme diversity of projects and things that are being done on top of Swarm or around Swarm. It's just amazing to see. We go from grassroots economy in Kenya to basically fantasy game network. I think it's amazing what you're doing, and also, yeah, I don't have to tell you, we'll be preaching to the choir, of course, but so many of these ideas, economic ideas even, came from the game world, right? And so many technologies that we now use today, like in normal computers, are almost always coming from the demand for humans to play games is basically driving us forward to do technological interesting things. Sorry, I don't really have a question, but I just want to say, like, for instance, I read somewhere, I was like kind of researching this, that there's like some function in C or in Golang that does the calculation of the square root for something, right? And this is coming from Quake 3D. So they needed to do like very fast calculations, and then suddenly we have this function that then everybody can use, even in totally different contexts. So yeah, I think it's amazing what you're doing, and I'm really inspired by it, and I hope to see so much more. I think this is going to grow into a very large thing. I think you're onto something here, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of solutions in AI are driven by semantic tagging models, and so this is sort of a training process that can be used to attach to a machine learning fed data store. And a lot of what we're focused on right now is like the source of truth and trying to figure out the world machine to go with the world computer. But I think it was Stafford Beers who was talking about layers of simulation in which we have to build around that because the complexity is too much for humans to really understand. So I'm exploring that from fiction because a lot of simulation is not the real world. And how we deal with that culturally and how we approach that in the blockchain space, in cultural spaces, in decentralized cultural spaces, I think games and the creative process in general can lead a lot to developing the kinds of drivers that we need to have to motivate people in positive ways. Yeah.
Do you see, what is your opinion on, like, there's so much to do now, I think almost like worldwide, but at least in like the Western kind of world, there's so much to do about people behaving based on different sort of realities, right? People having different belief systems, literally believing different facts to be, well, it's not facts, but people creating sort of facts and believing them. So,
Yeah,
I mean, if it is in a game, sorry.
We maybe haven't had to deal with a lot of those facts very much recently. I mean, up until recently. The United States, I don't know about the rest of the world, but at least in the United States, the earlier part of this century was, based on a lot of credit inflation dynamics. And so we weren't living in a very realistic world. And when people have to face up to realities, all of a sudden they have to make decisions. And maybe they're not making very rational decisions, clearly, because they've been so far out of touch with reality for so long.
It's a really interesting take on that.
But as we adjust through that process, I think once we take stock of the realities of the situation and we begin to move forward from our own unique perspectives, hitting ground and bouncing back up, the way to seek reintegration and grow the new culture that will be the piece of all of this is definitely in letting go of your old personality and who you think you are and where it fits in the world, and taking maybe just for a moment and putting on a funny face so that you can interact with people in a fresh way that you're not prejudging because they're also wearing funny faces. And then you laugh and you have a joke, and then afterwards you realize, once you've taken off the mess, that you were just having fun with somebody you didn't agree with before, but now you figured out how you can do that. And that's an important step for sure. Yeah, I'm definitely speaking to that. It's that co-creative process. And honestly, this isn't designed to make a lot of money for actors or Hollywood or anything like that. The crowdfunding cultures and fan-supported community that I'm part of anyway, but in large part in independent media and film throughout the world, because we are becoming a global network, we really are realizing that this is everywhere, but people are not really in it for the money. They're in it for the sense of self-expression, for the artistic experience and the sense of connection that they get with their community in that process. What this platform has allowed us to do without blockchain is to build up internal GDP across a micro community. And I think that a lot of the other presenters, especially the guys who just went before, can speak to the benefits of the ability to reuse transactional currency within your own space. And so this is really about building that kind of arcade environment where we have the tokens to put into our own machines to make us run around. Anyway, I don't want to take up any more of anyone else's time, but thank you very much for having me.
I'm so happy to be the host, so to be able to decide. I can just, it's a very personal, empowering position to be in, because I can just ask people, if I'm really interested in something, I can ask them to talk more about it. So it's lovely. Petra, as always, I loved your presentation and also the conversation we had, and I hope to see you very soon. In what country are you, if I can ask?
I'm here in Turtle Island. In the Cascadia bioregion.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but it's probably a cultural reference. Okay.
Yeah, here in the north of the land of the eagle and the condor, my friend.
That's lovely. I will meet you there soon if I can find a flight.
I hope so.
Yes, that would be lovely. Okay, Petra, thank you so much, and see you soon. Yes. Next. Mirko, I hope I pronounce your name correctly because I've been Mirko da Corte. So I've been interacting with you quite a lot on several chat channels and even on a centralized bastion such as LinkedIn. Mirko, you're gonna talk about Eterna, my insight.
Eterna, yeah.
So please go
Thank you,
ahead
Misha.
and go ahead. And also Sergio is gonna join you.
Yeah, I'm here with Sergio because while I was busy with the hackathon, he prepared the presentation.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I need someone like that. That's great. Okay, go ahead. I'm gonna kill my video. Bye.
Thank you. We can't hear you, Sergio.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. So nice to meet everybody. And thanks to this opportunity to present our project. Shortly, we are developing a video platform in which there will be no external enforcement onto creators. I mean, enforcement due to advertisements advertisement needs that may be translated into the needs of advertisers, which somehow do not want to be linked to any argument which may lead to some issue. So definitely creator and developer are the, let me say, think tank of this project. Creators who know the limits imposed to their creativity as users which are very tired about ADS and with sufficient knowledge which let grow in us the need to be liberated from this ADS bombing and from the privacy snatching. So let's briefly take a look to the issue we are talking about. As already introduced, it's normally difficult when not impossible to expose all personal opinion or let creativity explode in all kind of expression. You know, art may be not politically correct, and this may be not appreciated by the advertiser. Advertiser loves arguments in which anybody has nothing to say in opposition. We can use the most known video platform, YouTube, as an example of all issues that creators are encountering. And you know how much cost optimization of ADS campaign lead to extreme profiling of users and how often these, let me say, overflow to personal data snatching and privacy violation. So we here well know that free does not mean unpaid, and when you are not paid for something, you are the product. This is the real matter. Moreover, despite of the margins that all the video platforms, current video platforms are having, a lot of creators cannot live just proposing their art in this platform. And almost everybody try to ask some support from users. And the very big issue is that users do not really understand the back end of their display. Most of them maybe like to stay in ignorance, but we want to help them in understand their own value. So we are proposing an open source project. First of all, we want to that everybody may verify in any time our job, and also can help us. So we want to shift focus from the advertiser to the user. Everybody working in the net knows the value of personal data. Some user also knows that this secret that everyone knows, the secret of Pulcinella, as we say in Italy. But in our vision, the value of this data is not merely an economic value. It's a value linked to let me say, the soul of the society, to our soul. And our proposal, our desiderata, is to let people self-conscious of what sharing with what they are sharing with the world, and we will never own users' digital selves, and we want that community to be in the center of the scene. So we let choose people also the possibility to choose our index of contents, or to create his own index. We will give the opportunity to let them create their own index as their own gateway. So user will be really free in create and in use the platform. And what many people ask it, who's paying for this service? Because if IDS is not paying, who pays? We want to use we want to improve a pay-per-use system access based on the bandwidth value. You know that the bandwidth value is not high value, is some cent for gigabyte. And with this, we shall be able to sustain both our project and moreover the creator too. So shortly, this was this is Etana. This was the presentation. We are a startup based on the 3.0 technologies, and thank you. I've been very short because we're in late.
Thank you, Sergio.
So yeah, thank you for keeping it short. Mirko, did you want to add something to that still?
Yeah, in this hackathon, I'm still working on a tool that we will use in practice with Ethereum, because as Sergio said, we will have an index that for security scope have to be moderate from illegal contents, and this is can be an issue when an environment is totally decentralized. So our solution is to keep control on data, but make it totally transparent and verifiable. And with the tool that I'm developing, we will be able to clone our database index on Swarm network. So this will totally verifiable, and also application will be probably able to consume data directly on Swarm without asking to our server. And I think this is a good compromise to have control of the data in the index. So yes. If you have any question.
Yes, so yes, I know where to find you, but I would like to invite other people also to find Mirko. He is in our Telegram B support group and also in the Swarm Orange Lounge, of course. Sergio, I hope you're there too, and otherwise you have to ask Mirko to add you to these wonderful groups of like-minded, sort of like-minded people. I mean, at least we have the same goal if I look at all the presentations of making sure that the user is in control of their data. Mirko, as always, thank you so much. I only know buonasera. I know it means good night. I don't know how to say good afternoon.
Grazie.
Grazie. Buonasera.
Thank you so much, and I'll see you soon. So next up we have Upala or Upala. I have no idea how to pronounce it, to be honest. This is sometimes a problem, right? In our space, you read these things, or you just see a logo on a website somewhere, and it's like, how should I pronounce this? I will know in 2 seconds, because here's Peter from Upala Digital Identity. Peter, please unmute yourself and tell me if I was pronouncing it right.
Yeah, hi Michel, thank you. Yeah, almost, it's Upala.
Upala.
Yeah, it's in Sanskrit. That means an opal, the precious stone.
I see. That's probably the introduction for a presentation, so I'll just mute myself and let you do your thing.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, I'll share my screen now. Can you see it now?
Yes, your screen is bright and clear.
Okay, so greetings humans. We are Upala, an identity as a service, or simply your blockchain native alternative to state ID. So the problem that we are solving. So currently there is no reliable way to tell humans apart from bots on Ethereum or any other blockchains. Neither there is on the traditional web. And the fact that there are over 1 billion people without any ID in the world, we believe that all of these are parts of a unique human problem. So existing solutions out there, which are also tried blockchain native or new to thanks to blockchain, like Bright ID and IDENA and many others, they assess the probability of personhood, meaning that they give a percent of how are they sure that this person is a unique person. So we don't do that in Upala, and we have dollars instead of percent, and we show how much it would cost to forge a person account instead of showing how much we are sure that it is a real human. So let's see how price of forgery works. The main building block of Upala is a group. Group consists of users with their scores and a pool of money. And the main incentive and the main feature of the group and of Upala is that anyone in the system can run away with the money, with their score, with their assigned score. They can run away at any time, and we call it explosion. They can explode. So in our first group, let's say this last person tries to run away, or not tries, but runs away, explodes. So this person gets $10. The group pool decreases, and the number of users certainly decreases in this group. So this is the main incentive within group, not to let untrusted members in. Another incentive of the group is to provide scores to the apps. They can decide on any model of how they charge the apps, but let's say for simplicity, they just charge a fee for proving that a certain user has a certain score. So the groups this way have an incentive to get as many users as possible, and they are incentivized to get as reliable humans as possible to have as little explosions and as much as possible of approvals to the apps. The apps in turn are looking for huge groups, which are score providers to them, and they are looking for reliable groups as well. And users are looking for the groups that can provide the highest scores to them for the lowest efforts needed to enter this group. So a market similar to insurance emerges, but instead of trading coverage for premium in insurance model, in Upala, scores are traded for efforts needed to pass an entry test to a certain group, or in other words, to reduce explosion risk. So these efforts could be actions decreasing explosion risk It could be a deposit. It could be some reputation at stake if you are creating a group with your friends, or it could be some kind of work that that increases the probability that you are a human. An example is a CAPTCHA. So when you are solving CAPTCHAs, when you selecting those pictures with traffic lights or with bicycles, this is kind of work that reduces your risk of explosion. So this way, groups are competing for users, and they try to set as high scores as possible, but they cannot set the scores too high because they then increasing the risk of explosion. So if they set the score too high, they will suffer too many explosions, and they will have to decrease the score. This way, the score will balance at the price of acquiring such a score. So, or in other words, it is the same as the price of forgery. But let's better have an example. Upala can wrap around any group. Basically, any group of people, or even any entry test, any identity system, is incentivized to create an Upala group, to wrap Upala protocol around them. So imagine we can say that we create an Upala group for GitHub users with accounts of 5 years old, and they all get $5 from us. And we believe this is safe and they will not explode. They will value their ID more than $5. Or let's get to a more simple example. Let's say we want to create a group of people where we let people in based on SMS verification. And we say that we will give a $1 score to every person who passes an SMS verification. Okay, that works fine. Let's say we have 1,000 people. They all have a score of $1, but we want more because we want more fees from the apps. So we try to increase our score to $5. But we increased to $5. We got a lot of new users coming in because they're tempted by these higher scores. But at the same time, we have a lot more explosions because it turns out that it costs just $1 to forge an SMS verification. So some hacker finds this out. This hacker manages to create a lot of accounts based on SMS verifications. This hacker spends just $1 for each account, but he or she can take $5 score and explode. And at the end, for every account, have a return of $4. So it costs $1 to create, $5 as a revenue, and you have this difference of $4. So this hacker is earning, and our group is losing money. So we'll have to decrease our score back to $3. Probably we'll still have a lot of explosion, and then back to $1. And this way we'll find this by balancing our price and by iterating the price, we can find an appropriate rate of explosion which we are okay with. And we know that the price of forgery of SMS verification is $1. So this is dictated by the market. So yeah, this is why Upala score represents price of forgery. And in similar logic, we can assess other entry tests, other entry methods, like using other identity systems existing out there, using GitHub accounts or your maybe social network accounts like Twitter and many others. So all of them can be priced in terms of price of forgery. Another cool thing that you can do with Upala and with this simple building block which we provide is to create aggregators, meaning that a user can be a member of several groups, and another group will feel safe to give this user a very high score. For in this case, let's say it's $1,000, and these groups feel safe because they believe that this user passing all those tests with all the being a member of all those groups will not explode. This user values their reputation to such an extent that we are safe to give this user $1,000. So, and actually this price is unlimited. And if we have a user which is a member of like hundreds of groups, and we believe this user values his or her reputation a lot, and we feel safe to give very, very high score, which could be a lot more than forgery price of a state ID. So you can buy a forged US passport, right? Or Russian passport on the shadow market. And there is a cost to it. And we don't know this price, and this price is limited. And in Upala, the forgery price is unlimited. So this way, Upala could be a better solution than a state ID. So that's for the future. But for now, we are starting with this Blade Runner aggregator, which is a group. In Upala terms, it's a Upala group, which curates other groups, aggregates scores from them, and provides those scores to any dApp interested. So we assume that this group will be huge and trusted, and many dApps will connect to this group. So I have this Ethereum logo here, but it doesn't matter which network uses this authentication. So this the Upala is blockchain agnostic. And it should be cross-chain and blockchain agnostic, because this way we can have higher scores. So yeah, that's how it works. We have strong incentive to avoid bots. We have Upala provides very reliable threshold to the apps, as the apps 100% sure how much user values their ID. Works like insurance, and provides fair identity pricing, which is price of forgery. If you are interested, please join us, a community on Discord or in Telegram. I'd be happy to discuss your thoughts and ideas. We are just starting, and a lot of things need to be decided. So thank you.
Peter, thank you so much for that presentation. That looks very promising, and I'm looking forward to hearing a lot more about that. So thanks for that. Oh yeah, okay. So I was just wanted to ask you, like, if people want to get in touch with you, where can they find you? But the entire screen is filled with a QR code and your contact details. So that's beautiful. Thank you, Peter, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Yes, I'm basically waiting for you to stop sharing to continue the presentation, basically. Thank you, Peter, again. So we're still running a little bit late, but I think the next talk is actually a pre-recorded presentation of FEDN, Decentralized Storage Integration. Morgan and Salman. So I think, Gaspar, you can just start the video.
Hi, my name is Salman Toor. I'm associate professor at Uppsala University and distributed infrastructure scientist at Scaleout. And together with Morgan Eknifold, our CTO, we will present our solution for federated machine learning. So let's start. So as you know that right now in the world, data is the most valuable resource. But what is actually important or valuable when it comes to the data? Actually, the thing starts when we started to find new insights based on our data. And the way forward to build any new business model or find new strategies is basically based on those kind of new insights that we can find from the data. And as you all know that when it comes to the finding new insights from the data, predominantly what we will do is that we will use machine learning models. Traditionally, how we do the machine learning, it's basically we have different data sources. From those data sources, we collect all the data at a central location. And once we have our data available, we do machine learning model training. And once the models are available, then those models can be used for finding what is interesting in the data. It worked quite well, this whole architecture, for quite some time. But nowadays, it's starting to become more difficult. And the reason why everything started to become difficult is basically due to privacy and security reasons, and also due to the regulations. It is not very easy to collect all the data at a single place. By the way, it's not only the regulations that are in this picture. There are often use cases where the amount of data that is generated on the edge sites on these data source nodes, that is quite big in its own sense that it is not possible to collect all the data on a single place. So both in terms of big data and the regulations, it is starting to become more and more difficult to collect all the data on a single location. So then the question is that, okay, if we cannot collect all the data on a single place, what are the other options? How do we train our models? How do we do machine learnings that can basically enable us to find interesting insights from the available data? So the way forward is what right now Scale Out is working on, and the solution is basically federated machine learning. What is federated machine learning? Federated machine learning is a way that allows all the data holders or the stakeholders in the system not to share their data, but still build a jointly trained model that can help to find new insights, as you can see in this picture. And basically, FedN is a platform that Scale Out system is developing with the same kind of concept. So as you can see in this picture, we have data sources, and each data source have a computational unit attached to that allows the local data owner to do a model training. And then based on this architecture, we can the data holders can jointly train the model without leaking any data in this system. So they can still hold a complete autonomy on the data, but there is a possibility to train these models. It's a highly flexible and a platform that is based on this hierarchical approach inspired by the MapReduce kind of approach. And together with this FedN architecture, what you can see is that there is another part that is called StackN. And I guess if you are familiar with the machine learning environments, model training and building a new model is one part. But then what you need to have is a model serving platform, a platform that allows the ML ops operations to work in a production pipeline. So together with FedN, Scale Out system is also working on that part within this StackN. But right now, the focus based on federated machine learning is all about this part, this hierarchical architecture for distributed training. In federated machine learning, there are different areas that are extremely important to understand, and they have different, and there are contributions coming from different different fields. For example, as you know, in a distributed environment, whenever you want to share some information between nodes, the overhead communication cost is one area that one has to deal with. Computer science comes into that. However, if you look at machine learning models, the training of those models that are on a local site and the aggregation of those models on combiners and reducer sites in the architecture, those need to be mathematically correct as well. So all these things are somewhat very important when it comes to the federated machine learning. However, while focusing on these areas, our current focus is another direction, that is how to build trust in this distributed environment. And from here onwards, Morgan will tell us our future directions.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so you can go to the next slide. So this is where the Swarm grant comes in, which has enabled us actually to explore fully trustless federated learning, where there's a need for like trustless compute and decentralized storage. And the Swarm grant has, we've been able to create a project now that specifically aimed to develop the decentralized storage components. Next slide. So our current platform looked like this, like Salman showed you, with a tailored solution for several different storage alternatives, as you see in the picture, where you have, for example, AWS, S3, Minio, or any other local storage model. But this doesn't enable us to trace the validity of the machine learning contributions more than to the nodes that are directly connected. And we don't have any means to share data across the whole nodes for validation. And with Swarm, and this enables us that we can move all those model assets from inaccessible and non-verifiable local storage towards an accessible and decentralized means of sharing encrypted models to build machine learning models together by collaborating in a decentralized and trustless fashion. So, so you can change to the other picture. Yeah. So in this Swarm version, we are able to, as I said, we can move the models out to decentralized storage. So any member in this type of collaboration can validate models without having direct access to that model's owner. So important to notice here also that models consist of often a weight set. So a partial model, like there are local models on the lowest level, there are partial models on the combiner level, and the only one who has a global model is the reducer level. But then the global model can also be accessed through different types of additional smart contract methods and functionality, which we will explore further in coming projects. So, for example, one additional project we have already looked at is storage checkpointing the models through Ethereum smart contracts, and we will share this solution in coming versions of the Fedon platform. Yeah, and this enables model provenance then in a whole other means than we can see with traditional solutions where we don't have these possibilities. Next slide. So where we are currently in the Fedon release cycle is the latest release 0.1.4, and we are now developing 0.2, which is soon to be released. And at the same time now we have picked up the work with the Swarm project to enable a solution on this decentralized storage for to be able to explore new use cases and do model collaborations in these decentralized settings. So as we develop this, feedback and engagement is very welcome,
And if there are any other projects out there that are interested in such a solution that we are building now for these decentralized machine learning model collaborations, please reach out to us and we can see if there is any collaboration or synergies. Yeah, next slide. So that was all from us at Scale Out Systems. And if you have any inquiries or want to contact us, you can do that through the email. And with that, I think we can say thank you and goodbye.
Yes.
Yes, thank you and goodbye. This was a video, so I can't do any follow-up calls to these guys. But again, a wonderful presentation. Next up, and I think I'm gonna double check this, but yes, this is the last. It's been quite a long list, but I found each and every one of these presentations very inspiring, and it shows the growth of our ecosystem, and I think it's really nice. Next up, Lab 10 Collective. That sounds good. Lab 10 Collective with Thomas. Thomas, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Thomas, feel free to. Yes, there you are. Thomas, is it okay? You had to wait basically for so long to do your presentation, but you saw all the other presentations, I guess. Yes, in
Yes.
waiting to go. Can I just ask you off the bat, like, what did you think was like, what will you remember, like, from things you have seen this afternoon?
Well, I tapped into the discussion you had early on. That was interesting when you discussed about all the incentivation stuff and those things, because yeah, I was recently commenting on having a casino basically on Ethereum.
Yeah.
And yeah, well, just the previous presentation about federated machine learning, that was very interesting, because that could solve quite some problems what you usually have with GDPR and stuff. So this is very interesting stuff what the guys are doing.
Yeah, it's also something I've heard Zahur, who is doing FairOS. He has been talking a lot about that too. That like he's trying to explain to me. I'm saying trying because it's not on his side. He's explaining it very well, but I'm trying to understand, I should say, that he sees like these decentralized pods and storage just as a first solution. The more important thing to him is like doing like calculations and doing stuff with the data that's there. So it's interesting. So let's go to your talk. It's called Minerva Wallet here in Antwerp. We have a radio station that's called Minerva, and if I am remembering correctly, this is a goddess of some sort. But you probably know more about that, so I'll let you explain that and many more in your talk.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, Minerva is a goddess of many things, of trade, of law, of wisdom, and in our case, Minerva is a wallet. It's actually a crypto and identity wallet, and therefore, let me see, sharing. So show you my screen here. So basically, when you think of a crypto wallet, usually you have these kind of typical coin wallets, and we see that very differently. We see that rather in a way to say, well, a wallet contains more than just cash or coins of some sort. And it also is not a bank where you interact with DeFi applications. You have a lot of identification in your wallet. You have various kind of cards which give you some benefits in purchasing something. It needs ID cards. It's having your driver's license and stuff like that. You have a lot of things in your wallet, and making that digital is actually quite a challenge. So basically, getting to that point where you are having a digital wallet, then you have a very different understanding what it is. But before I jump actually into the wallet, I want to say a couple of words who we are and where to position the Minerva wallet within the whole stack, so that you can understand where we come from and where we are heading to. The Lab 10 Collective, I start with this one, is a cooperative in Austria, in Graz, and we founded 2017. Basically going back to a meetup kind of group, and we're focusing on solving climate issues, and started working on that very intensively over a whole stack. So basically we're working towards, as you can see on the claim, towards a zero carbon society, and therefore we are very much connected to the energy and mobility space, which is kind of causing all the mess we currently have. And if you're not just thinking about a wallet and you're depending on everything else, I think everybody is discussing about energy consumption, especially the less involved people. They're reading something on the news that Bitcoin is consuming a lot of energy and that kind of stuff. And of course, that is relevant. If you're building new systems, they should not just kind of inflate our energy consumption. Therefore, we started off building the artist blockchain. So basically, I give you just kind of the whole stack here. So we consider, like an Ethereum blockchain, we consider as layer 1. So there can be DeFi. There is a lot of kind of activity, as you know now, right? Causing congestion, causing high transaction fees and everything. Artis is for us the blockchain layer above, and more in the case of Artis, it's connected to mobility and energy. And Minerva, the wallets, is actually giving you the access to those blockchain layers below. So you're having identity and asset management, whatever that kind of asset it might be. It doesn't necessarily have to be a blockchain asset. It could be a verifiable credential just as well. And on top of that, we're building sustainable applications in the energy and mobility space. And you find more on our YouTube. I'm sorry, I can't access it right now. Can't get there. Anyway, so this is basically the stack we are looking at. So this is important, in my opinion, if you want to understand where we are. When I talk about the Minerva wallet right now, this is a mobile app, so you can join, and if you want to download, you can go to minerva.digital. Liebe jetzt nicht.
Okay.
You can join minerva.digital or go to minerva.digital and download the APK and install it on your mobile, or even if you want to share with you the experience, you can do it via Firebase. And here you can already see, so it's very important to have a kind of a understanding how to handle the data within the wallet. And right now we are storing the data from the wallet in an encrypted form on our server. And with Swarm, we are heading towards having the decentralized version of storing that kind of data. So basically what you do in Minerva, you're having full control over your keys. You're having one seed phrase and basically encrypted the whole kind of metadata you have in there in the wallet. And I will show you shortly how it looks like. All the metadata within the wallet is actually stored currently on our server. Well, of course, we can't read anything, so you have to retrieve it, But the point is, we also don't like that kind of solution so much that actually we are taking care about the data, and Swarm will help to kind of decentralize that part as well when you recreate or when you are reviving your wallet on another device or something. So we actually already kind of played around with some ideas how it could look like in the wallet. So it could be either something where you are fully integrated in a way that you're creating within the wallet, you're creating an account. The most simple version would be just switching on and off, basically storing the data on Swarm. It could be also kind of done in a way that we actually create an account within the wallet. So basically you're saying my name, my password, and you're storing it. You're creating a Fairdrop account, and of course, basically, we have to have a fallback version. So if you're kind of disconnecting the wallet from Swarm via Fairdrop, it would be basically disconnecting the account and storing everything on the device again, and making sure that once, let's say, if you're destroying your device, that you still have a backup somewhere where you can do the recovery action with your seed phrase later on. So I will stop this sharing and I will give you a short presentation. Just a second. Need to switch to the other screen. So here we are. So now you should see another screen. Just a second. Something I think went wrong. Do you see this UMDC screen? Can you please confirm?
Yes, we can see your...
Okay, good. I was just not sure if you see the correct screen. So here you see my mobile. Basically, you have if I'm starting the Minerva wallet, you have the option of identities. You have accounts. You have services. You have activity, and you have settings. And as you can see right now, there is of course no option for storing it in a decentralized way. That could be similar to that switch what we use for main networks, or it is this kind of flow I just showed to you. So to give you a little bit of a demonstration as well, if I take my identities, I can import a credential from a demo we created for a customer, as you can see. And basically, I have here a QR code, and if I'm scanning that QR code, it actually asks me for some data. So in that case, it asks me for my identity. I'm providing that. And now I kind of need to switch to another screen because I think I cannot turn that off. And I need more space on the screen. So. Good. So here, I'm importing now a credential. So basically I have now a club card of this automotive club within my wallet. And basically if I touch it, I will get this club card. I can provide the same credential as I have just kind of scanned within the wallet. And that credential is, of course, it's added to my identity, which I choose. And also here I can basically do the same. So I can provide a cryptographically secured way of a club card within my wallet, and I can provide it to anybody who is who needs that. The same thing you basically can do if you're or when you're looking at it on the crypto side. So you could have some tokens, you could have some coins, and so on and so on. So basically what I'm trying to say here is all that information that you have, this account number 1 on the artist blockchain, you have the account number 2 on the XDAI chain, and you have those tokens. This kind of meta information, what you actually have, is kind of stored as data, as basically a verifiable credential is stored as data. And all that data is then in this encrypted form lying around. So it should be ideally on Swarm, and then when you are recovering it, you're getting back all your data within the wallets as you expected. That's basically it, and I'm of course happy for any kind of question.
Thomas, thank you so very much for that wonderful presentation. Yes, I have a question, but it's not really unrelated, but I mean, not literally to your project. I was just wondering, I saw lovely kids passing by, and so I was wondering, I together with my partner, we have 5 kids between the age of 12 and 17. I hope I'm not mistaken here. And so we really try to explain what we do and what we are working on, etc. Do you do that too, or are your kids like way too small for that?
No. My daughter is 14 and my boy is 12. He is more into games and VR games and stuff like that. So basically over here they're usually playing all kinds of stuff. And yeah, to my daughter, I'm part of it. I'm explaining usually when we are out for running. I'm telling her basically what I'm doing in the crypto stuff and what my day was and those kind of things. They're passed along.
Yeah, I think it's just I'm sort of proud that I'm a parent that has a job where the kids are actually interested in what I do instead of. I think it says a lot, right? If a new generation is interested and their ears are like, what is this all about? Like tokens and stuff. Yeah, I felt like it's probably the best way to change the world, right? Is by raising your kids and tell them all about decentralization and crypto, etc. Or
Yeah.
maybe I'm totally mistaken and we are creating monsters.
Well, I would not say so. So I think there is this kind of misconception of how money comes into the world, and basically the banker which tells the next customer that he can't give him his money because he just lended it out to somebody. And I usually say, well, it's the same what we're doing in crypto. We're just making money as bankers do. So it's like, there's no real difference.
And do they get in trouble in school then if they give their opinion in some?
No, not that I know of. So
Okay,
so far not. Yeah,
we sometimes have that with like our oldest son. Sometimes he goes back to school and it's like, wait a minute, this is not true. This is not how economics work. And then he comes home, it's like, my teacher said that it works like this. And we're like, yes, that's what they believe, but it's not true. So anyway, Thomas, yeah, maybe sorry for the chit chat, but anyhow, I always like to see people with children in this space. Because it is, I think it's a wonderful thing. Thank you, Thomas. I will be seeing you in the near future, I'm quite sure. And yeah, thank you for finishing this day with your presentation.
Thank you very much for having me.
Before we go out, I just can't say goodbye without having seen my good friend Gregor today. Because we haven't been seeing each other in this entire event. And Gregor, are you? Here he is. I'm so happy to see your face, because you know why I'm always so happy to see your face in this kind of events, because you have this big grin or a big smile. That's a combination of I don't know, I would call it like a rebellious happiness. Like, yeah, you know that these things are going to change the world, and that's why you're smiling like that. And I like to see that, because I do the same, right? I'm always so excited about this. So Gregor, how did you spend the afternoon? I mean, what did you like? And give me some feedback.
Yeah, well, you know me well. You got it spot on. It's like every demo for me, it's like it's just empowering. It's just great to see, like how new projects are emerging, how basically that it goes into the direction that we like to see also with Swarm, that into building a better world, into building better alternatives that empower the individual at the center, So yeah, it's really good to see this, and I actually can't wait to see progress on all this. And the other thing, it's what we also need to stress is there's actually quite a lot more projects building on top of Swarm that didn't showcase today.
True, right? How many, you know this by heart probably, like how many grant recipients do we have in total?
I didn't calculate exactly. I would say 31.
Yes,
31 were in the first round, and we are just closing the third round. So there's still a possibility to apply. And after that, once we process the third round, of course, we will then announce a new round. It's we see this as the beginning of the journey of how we work together, also with projects, and it's also in this regard, it's also for us a learning process. So we're very much thankful also to all the projects who are showing trust in us by building on Swarm, by directing their attention here.
Yeah, it's even more than that, right? Like seeing, to me, it's always so joyous to see people. I don't know these people. I have no idea who they are, where they are coming from. But then they start talking. I'm like, you're like thinking like me, right? You're like you believe the same things, and you want to see the same changes I want to see in the world. And I find this a very moving experience, right? Just to see. Because this time it's very specific. I mean, if I walk into like an event like an Ethereum DevCon, it's become like a very broad space of ideas and goals for people to do. I feel like in Swarm, it's a very, I don't know, it's like a narrow goal we're still having, because that's just who we are. The more people that come in, they come with their own ideas, and they expand like the intellectual range of things we are working on. But this community to me is just like, yeah, I have no words to describe it, to be honest. It's just like, it's so exciting.
Yes, it's also I'm fascinated by the diversity of the projects, by the spectrum, like that we see. And at the same time, what I liked also today, how it also started with the discussion and the talk, and you raising also the concerns about tokenization. It's there's relatively little talk about this right now within our community. It's like more looks like how we got together because of some kind of a shared ethos, which we try to articulate essentially through the Fair Data Society principles. And it's about, yes, I would say even like freedom, digital freedom is at the forefront. It's how do we create these new tools and solutions for empowerment?
I think, sorry to interrupt you, but it's so important, because if you look at Ethereum, DeFi, all that stuff, a lot of the time it is about financial freedom. And I don't mean that you have so much money that you become free from the system. What I mean literally is like you are free to send your money anywhere or do whatever you want with it without a third party involved. But to me, your personal data actually makes up who you are, right? It's not only, I used to say like the sum of your transactions that you do on a blockchain, this is like your identity. It was like, I think how Matan Field, posed it like that. Mm-hmm. But I think this is not completely true. Of course, there's a truth to it. But the more complete truth is that storing the fruits of your creation, of the stuff that you have been doing, not the transactions with other people even, but stuff that you did by just taking a walk. You collect miles on a digital app, like the step counter, and storing that in a place. All this data coming together, that's to me your identity, right? And being able to show selectively to the world these parts, these pieces of data, in that way you can reveal your identity. So in a way, I would say that Swarm, is even more important for identity management or control over how you present yourself than a blockchain. That's why I'm kind of interested now in the whole idea of tokenization, and if it is is it really that good of an idea? We also saw, I know you have an opinion on this, we also saw Will speaking about maybe infrastructure should be something universities do, right? And other non-profit initiatives and institutions do. What is your take on that?
I really like the Will's talk, and I think this is the power of the economics, to actually look at existing systems with skepticism, re-envision them, see like how do we fix them. While I like DeFi a lot, I like what's happening there. My concern there is that we use like this wording, like the Wall Street guys, because the Wall Street guys know exactly how that derivative works, that is, I don't know, linked to that and so forth, But now DeFi takes this complexity even one step further. Like, okay, so I have like this token that is governance to this liquidity pool that does this and connects with I don't know what in how many flash loans kind of things, So, and this is again coming back, like to this ethos, to the principles. It's like in all this happening, in all this noise, we need values. We need these clear goals to keep our focus, to keep us on our course. So what Will was also talking about, and the basic income, and if what you're saying about identity, I think in a way all this comes together, because identity, like you said, it's like a multi-dimensional approach depending on which context I use, like what kind of identity. Yes, it could be just my transactions in some context. In some others would be maybe my repos on GitHub or something else. I don't know. And at the same time using crypto economics and thinking about data. And I think identity, data as identity, will become a lot stronger the more ingrained we are in the digital world. The more of our life is happening in the digital realm, the more this is linked then to identity and to the economy. And here, maybe, it's like maybe even data, this is one of my dreams. I don't know how to do it, but maybe we can realize that we can create such data economy that creates a universal basic income. So it would be the first bottom-up currency, where the currency was created from the bottom, and we don't have like these strong hierarchies, So
yeah,
that would be.
At least the cool thing is with Web 2.0, the economy has been proven, or it has been proven that creating data is a very valuable thing, right? And so it is a matter of time, I think, for someone or some team to figure out how to do a basic income based on the data you generate. I mean, it is. I love it because it basically is a very philosophical thing. It means that if you exist, you are valuable, right? If you are a person existing on Earth, this means you're valuable. And
I mean, yeah, it's like, I think we are very far from that. It's there's like this approaches the so-called adjacent possible, So this is not now yet, I would say, the next thing to innovation. But here we come exactly back to Swarm. First, we need our self-sovereign data. First, we need to have like agency over our data before we can even start thinking about implementing solutions that unlock freedom and value. So, and yeah, we just need to push forward, It's like we are just starting now.
And be patient, because I literally had to figure out how to stay calm and relaxed, because I see all these possibilities, and sometimes it's really hard to just be patient and wait on the tiniest detail that has to be developed before we can move forward with something. Did you hear my Star Trek reference in the panel conversation?
Yes, I was very touched by it, and of course, you know that I resonate completely with the reputation economy. So there's even a book written about this. I never managed to read it, but yes, a scholar, like an economist, analyzed how it could work.
So yeah, because didn't Star Trek even go beyond reputation based? I was always wondering. Kiki and I had this discussion after watching, this movie, right? Like First Contact, and it's like, who gets to decide in that kind of futuristic society? Who gets to decide whether you are going to Starfleet Academy or not? Right, and then if you become a captain of a ship or not, like how does that? Is there any literature on that in the Star Trek ecosystem?
I think it's okay. I'm not an expert, but there are vague hints at it. But I would say it's basically a meritocratic system. So how well you do and how virtuous you are, that I guess translates into some kind of probably informal or any kind of reputation system. I mean, the thing, it's like the interesting thing. So Star Trek really suggested a lot of things. The authors, in general, the sci-fi authors did, but they didn't suggest decentralization and tokenization yet.
I hope that activism and principles combined with tokenization doesn't lead us to a dystopian world. I would love to see a Star Trek utopia. Don't get me wrong. I'm just literally touching wood that we are doing it the right way and going in the right direction. It would be such a nightmare if we unleash like a Facebook, 3.0, let's say, that where people become basically slaves to a token. So that's sometimes what keeps me up at night, at least.
Yes, and it's a good thing that it keeps us up at night and that we speak about it, because only in this way, and to share experiences and engaging also as many people as possible, we can minimize or try to avoid these things. We can never know everything and be sure about everything, but we can do our best.
Let's do our best. That's probably a good way to end today's presentations. We're all doing, I think, our very best, and I love seeing this. I think I'm just suggesting something here, just throwing it in the group. I think our next meetup could be in Kenya. If Corona is over, I would love to go with the whole Swarm team to Kenya and to check out what Lewis and Will are doing there, because I think it's a great real world example. Gregor, looking at tomorrow, the last day of the Liberate Data week and hackathon, by 4 p.m. that's like Central European time, everybody should stop working and get your hands away from the keyboard and send in the things, because are we doing this publicly? If we're doing like the jury stuff, is this going to be publicly, or are we just asking?
The demos, I would imagine, yes, the demos should be public and that we all watch them, and we take it from there.
That's going to be really fun. So tomorrow at 4, I think we come back live to do that. And by 8 in the evening, we will have our closing ceremony. Gregor, I suppose that we are going to continue our conversation there. So I want to thank you all for this long afternoon. Thank you, Gregor. And I really enjoyed it. Like every talk you've seen this afternoon will be cut up and will be posted to YouTube and to Swarm, I hope. But we'll see about that. And also you can see the entire live stream again on Twitter because it was streamed there. From Antwerp, Belgium, I bid you good night, and I'll see you all tomorrow to do some jury and deliberating stuff. Thank you all, and bye-bye.